Great. And I think that's
Folks, we're just working through a technical issue here, so we should be underway shortly. We're almost there, folks. Appreciate your patience. Okay, thanks for your patience, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Are there any memorials this evening? Okay. Bob, did you want to do a call out?
Yeah, just wanted to say a few words about our student trustee, Jason Crisco. He's off to Queen's University next year to study general sciences. We're not sure, and he hasn't told me yet if he plans to play football also, but he likes to pack his schedule, so he might give it a shot. This year he received the OSTA Catholic Board Council 2026 Student Trustee Servant Leadership Scholarship, which is province-wide. During the convocation, he received the KW Legacy Scholarship, Student Council Award, Student Trustee Award, and the International Program Certificate. I'd like to. It's.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'll turn it over to Trustee Guerin for the prayer.
Thank you, Chair. A quick note first to say Happy Father's Day to all the fathers and father figures around the table and around our board. I found a end of school year prayer from the Catholic Principals Council of Ontario. So thought we would do that. It's in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. O God of all beginnings and endings, we praise and thank you for the gift of this school year. It has been a time filled with grace and blessings, with challenges and opportunities, joys and sorrows. The days have passed quickly, O Lord. The weeks, the months, the seasons, the holidays and holy days, the exams, vacations, breaks, and assemblies, all have come forth from your hand. While we trust your purpose has always been at work each day, sometimes it has seemed difficult to understand and appreciate just what you have been up to in our schools. Give us the rest and refreshment we need this summer. Let our efforts of this past year bear fruit. Bring all of our plans to a joyful conclusion and bless us according to your will. With the fulfillment of our summer hopes and dreams, watch over us in the weeks of rest ahead and guide each day as you've done this past year. Help us to return to school with a new spirit and a new energy. May we continue to grow in age, wisdom, knowledge, and grace all the days of our lives. Amen. Son, Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you, Trustee Guerin. Moving to the territorial acknowledgement. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we is the land on which we gather today is the land traditionally cared for by the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Chantanand people. I also acknowledge the enduring presence and deep traditional knowledge, laws, and philosophies of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land today. Moving now to the approval of the agenda. Can I get a mover of that motion, please? Trustee Sikora and Trustee Francis. Okay, we have consensus. Thank you very much. Moving to declaration of pecuniary interest. Is there any from a current meeting or a previous public or in-camera meeting? Okay, seeing none. Moving to items for actions. The items for action arising from the double in-camera meeting of 25th, 2026 regarding HRS matters. Can I get a mover of that motion, please? Trustee Weiler, Trustee Francis, do we have consensus? Okay, thank you very much. Moving to the consent agenda. So we'll do this in two motions because the bottom two are just for the governance committee. So we'll go with approving items 3.1.1 through 3.4. Can I get a mover of that motion, please? Trustee Sikora and Trustee Weiler. Do we have Trustee Stanley?
Madam Chair, I think it's important to clarify this does represent the vote on the budget. Is that correct?
No.
Okay, will there be a separate vote?
Yes, there is.
Okay, thank you.
So in this motion, we are just approving the Board of Trustee minutes from May 25th, June 17th, the SEAC minutes, the audit minutes, and the administrative procedure update. So I think I saw a mover. Do we have that already noted? Trustee Weiler, you moved. Oh, you seconded. And Trustee Sikora, you moved. Okay. Do we have consensus? Okay. Thank you. Now for the governance committee, we will do a motion for 3.5 and 3.6 to approve the governance committee minutes. So again, a good mover from the governance committee, Trustee Kathy Doherty Masters and Trustee Weiler seconded, and we have consensus. Okay, thank you very much. Moving now to item 5.1, math achievement plan.
Thank you. I'd like to invite forward Petra Leduc, our board math lead from K to 12, and Sarah Gonzalez Day, our math consultant 7 to 12 to present. Thank you.
So we may be experiencing another technical difficulty with the presentation, so just bear with us for a minute.
Great. Okay, good evening. So Sarah and I are here to talk about math and to give the update. I'm going to start with the Math Achievement Action Plan. This will be the final update for this year. So just as a reminder, this is where we fit in to the MYSB, mostly in learning and belonging. And just also as a reminder, these are sort of the areas that we track and measure in terms of key performance indicators. And we measure for improvement in mathematics. So we always talk about the inputs, so the things that we've done, and I'll sort of point some of those things out tonight. And I'm sure you've read about them. The outputs is what kind of shifts we're seeing. Could be professionally with teachers, or also could be with students in those content areas. And then who is better off? And that's really about student progress in mathematics. Also, as a reminder, these are the 3 areas that the Math Achievement Action Plan targets. So there's 3 priority areas. One is really about ensuring fidelity to the curriculum and instructional approaches. So those high impact instructional practices, we'll talk about those in a moment. Educator content knowledge, so increasing content knowledge for teaching mathematics, and then also knowing the learner and responding. So that's really about daily assessment opportunities to know where students are and to be responsive to those learning needs. Also, In our key performance indicators, we have to sort of identify whether it's something we've done in professional development, if we're doing this or enacting this strategy for a shift in understanding with teachers, a shift in confidence, either for students and educators, a shift in practice, that's on the teaching side, or if it's student progress in identified areas. So those are sort of the areas we have to tag. And then these are our criteria that we have to select from, whether or not what stage of implementation we are in, and then also a stage of effectiveness as well. So this is just sort of a summation of our 3 cycles of coaching. So what would have been submitted in terms of our common board assessments that we create in certain areas for geometric reasoning, measurement, and data literacy, which are our focus areas in math for grade 3 and 6. And that final one there that's kind of in the light yellow is the gains we made in grade 3 this past cycle, and then in grade 6 as well. Some of the things that we collect data on for our KPIs are high impact instructional practices. We really concentrate on, there's 8 of them, but we concentrate on these 4. So small group instruction, problem solving tasks and routines with students, use of tools or representations, and also direct instruction. So this is sort of the average percentage of all cycles. And we're quite happy with these. We're seeing like a lot of movement towards, towards getting to that 75% range. And our target for small group instruction has always been like 50% of the time we should be engaged in small group instruction. And we're kind of on target for reaching that as well. When we take a look at our use of board purchased resources for mathematics, you can see mathology.ca, which is our core resource. We're using 90% of the time we're in those coaching cycles. Knowledge Hub, we're using about 1/3. And then we're using other things. So Braining Camp being one of them, which is a digital tool. TVO Learn, about 50% of the time, and then other resources as well. Can also see the nature of the coaching. Oh, sorry, this is the type of content that we're engaging in more specifically. So we engaged in a lot of geometric reasoning this year, as well as with measurement. Those are our 2 sort of really areas that are tough to teach and tough to learn. And then data analysis is our other big one there. We did in certain cycles, in cycle 2, we did a lot around angles and area and surface area, but really those measurement components, geometry and data literacy are areas of need. These are the types of things that we also collect. So we're also looking at our daily assessment opportunities in math coaching cycle. Kind of normal, around 25% there for pre and post. We do it at the beginning and at the end. We've seen quite an increase in observations this year, as well as conferencing and the use of exit tickets. What we haven't seen as much growth with is self-assessment in math, and that is an area of need for us as coaches. And we actually talked about that in our debrief meetings with our priority school teachers this year too, is how to embed more time for self-assessment and reflection with students. And then this is really what we collect in terms of the nature of the coaching with the teachers that we coach with in grade 3 and 6. So really steadily moving towards almost 50% of the time co-teaching where the teacher is leading the lesson. Our motto is always that we are working ourselves out of a job in your classroom. That is the point. We're not there to stay forever and ever and ever. We're trying to shift practices in those classrooms. And that would include, gradual release towards the classroom teacher in those areas. Some things that we've done, so some inputs. So we have 4 coaches at 6 priority schools and 8 identified schools. We also have one math consultant that helps us out, which is our Sarah, 7 to 12, and then myself. Throughout this whole year, I think we were able to support 320 educators, and that's with a fairly small team. Also continued to invite our senior team, our superintendent and our director into our priority school classrooms, which has been great. We've had a lot of superintendents take time out of their busy schedules to come and sort of observe the work and get to really know the work of the map, the action, and which included, we did actually have the Ministry of Ontario come into our classrooms this year as well. We're continuing also as an input to provide math AQ subsidies. We're on target to complete 35 subsidies this year. So we're 20 to date, and we're teaching one more additional qualification course, bless you, in the summer. To date, since 2016, when we started the subsidy program, we've awarded 405 math AQ subsidies. Sadly, the ministry will not be supporting that again next year. So it's too bad. Also, what other key input? We've continued with our math lead teacher, which is a system-wide approach to a shared leadership model in math. We had 70% of our math lead teachers attend all 6 of our sessions this year. And, you know, overwhelmingly, most of our MLTs responded that they agree or strongly agree to the 9 survey questions, which is really about increasing math content knowledge and, you know, increasing confidence to share that knowledge back at their schools. One thing that was new for us, this was another input for us this year, was using short learning cycles. So we created what's called teaching sprints, 7 teaching sprints that target areas that we've been following sort of the data from our mock EQAO that are areas where typically our students in grade 3 and 6 struggle a little bit more, which include a pre and post assessment, 10 days of created lessons to revisit expectations. And what we've done this year, which was different from previous years, is when we would leave a math coaching cycle, we would leave those teachers with a teaching sprint to continue the sort of the same thing that we were doing with them, which was a pre-assessment, some targeted teaching, and the post-assessment. And we actually had a really good buy-in. 100% of our teachers that we coached with were using those, but we actually had teachers outside of math coaching schools that were also using them. So 28% of the time, the teachers that were accessing those were teachers that we were working with in a math coaching situation, which was kind of cool. Yeah, so 27% of the non-coaching math schools were involved in that. Some things still left to do. So we just finished our exit assessments for Knowledge Hook. So we'll be closing out those reports shortly. So that's K-8 and the exit assessments. We're currently planning for our 4th year of mock EQAO. Actually just finished the changes for that today. We're continuing to increase our supports for mathology. So last year we unveiled our long range plans and pacing guides for straight grades, and now we're moving into split grade long range plans as well. Not as easy to write. Had a really long day of discussions today about these. And then we have, like I said, we're running one more math AQ for this block of time in the subsidy program. And that will be this summer in the condensed program for part 1. Couple of things for next year. We're going to be continuing on with our digital math tool funding through Mathology and Knowledge Hook. That's the funding that we get to support grade 3, 6, 7, and 9 with digital learning tools in school and at home. We'll continue to provide math coaching to our priority and board identified schools. In all, we will be supporting again 18 elementary schools and 30 periphery schools. And we will continue on with our math lead teacher, 64 math lead teachers across next year, 48 elementary schools, five sessions in total, and we'll actually be using some supply release to meet with those teachers during the day, as opposed to all after school sessions, which is kind of exciting. And I'll pass it on to Sarah.
Hi, everybody. I'm just going to give a quick overview of some things that are happening in secondary mathematics. So in secondary, we're continually taking a look at the pathway that our students are selecting, as well as the achievement level with the courses that they've selected. So this year we did see a bit of a decrease in our grade 10 academic courses in the percent of students that were reaching provincial standard, but an increase in the applied grade 10 program of students that were reaching provincial standard. But it is important to note that at this time, we only have the data from semester 1. We're still in exams for semester 2, so we'll be looking at this again in the fall to get the full year's worth of data. And then in grade 9, we had an increase of 3% in the percentage of students that were reaching provincial standard. And then looking at how many students are getting their credit, that's remained steady at 96% over the past few years. And in terms of pathway selection, a lot of our pathways have seen an increase in the academic pathway in grade 10 and then university pathways in grade 11 and 12. Our grade 11 university course has hit a 5-year high in the percent of students that are selecting that pathway. So some good things are happening in 9 and 10 that are giving students the confidence to feel like they can continue into that university level pathway. And then our GLS course, which is our grade 9 prep course, has seen a big increase. So we implemented it 3 years ago, and it started with 57 students. And this year we had 127 students taking that course. And to help students be successful in secondary math, we do a lot of support in that first year in grade 9 and also to prepare them for EQAO. So we did our 3rd year of the mock EQAO. It was our 2nd year doing it in Knowledge Hook. And doing it in Knowledge Hook allows the teachers to have access to their own data immediately after completing the assessment, so they can see where the students in their class need help, and then they can address those issues. And then it also gives us, at the end, when everyone's completed it, some board-wide data. We had 78% of the grade 9 teachers participating in semester 1. I don't have the data yet for semester 2, but we did have some strategies in between the 2 semesters working with the principals. So hopefully we'll see an increase in the number of teachers that participated in semester 2. And we have our entry and exit assessments for grade 9 as well. The entry assessment allows the teachers to use it as like a diagnostic tool, and they can see what skills the students have and what areas maybe they're lacking when they come into the course at the beginning. And then the exit assessment, they can see at the end how their students have done, what gaps they've closed, and we can look at as a board maybe some of the areas where our program is working really well and we're closing gaps, and some other areas where we still need some improvement. And we have the pre-assessment data from both semesters, and there was an increase from 71% participating in first semester to 80% participating in semester 2. So some of the strategies we used talking with the grade 9 educators and the administrators helped more of the teachers participate in semester 2. And then the GLS course, every year, the 3 years that we've done it, the students complete a survey at the end, and they continue to indicate that their confidence has improved after taking the course, and they feel more prepared for grade 9 D-stream mathematics. And then a new initiative this year was increasing in-class support at our 3 schools that were below the provincial and the board average for EQAO. 2 years ago, we had funding from the ministry that allowed us to have what we called team teachers in the grade 9 classrooms, and we had an increase in our EQAO results that year. And then last year, that funding was gone and those supports weren't there anymore, and we saw a little decrease in our EQAO scores. So I've been trying to get out to these 3 schools as much as possible to give the students and the grade 9 teachers support. And we ran our WCDSB Math Olympics. This is our 3rd year post-COVID. So this was an event that started pre-COVID, and then we had to take a few years break during COVID. So we started up again 3 years ago, and we expanded it this year to have in-school events as well as the in-person events. So in total, there were 4 events for the teams to participate in. So they work collaboratively as a school team. They solve problems, they do puzzles, they have guest speakers. They had a speaker from the Center of Mathematics from the University of Waterloo, and also somebody from a professor from the Department of Finance and Accounting speak with them. Each school brings 20 students, 5 from each grades 9 to 12. And they work together on these problems and promote their problem solving skills and collaborative skills as well. So next steps for math in secondary school, we're hoping to do some cross panel work next year. We have our new 7 to 12 school, which makes cross panel maybe a little bit easier to do with those grade 7, 8, and 9 teachers. So we're excited to do some work there and hopefully be able to also go beyond just that school community and do some cross panel with other school communities as well. I'm collecting feedback from those 3 high schools that I said I've been supporting. I sent it out today and the initial feedback looks really good, that they felt supported and felt like that it benefited their students having support in the grade 9 classes this year. And then continuing to promote the GLS course, we held a meeting this year for teachers and then created this new information sheet so that grade 8 teachers and grade 8 students and their families can have more information about this course. We'll continue to monitor our enrollment numbers. One of the important ones is the grade 9 locally developed, because we want to make sure that de-streaming doesn't make our locally developed numbers increase. And we saw the lowest % of students in grade 9 locally developed in the past 6 years this year. So we'll keep monitoring that. So that was some good news. Continuing with the Math Olympics, with Notre Dame being just 7 to 10 next year, we're looking to split it into like a junior and senior competition, because it wouldn't be fair for those grade 9s and 10s to compete against 11 and 12s. And then we have the financial literacy graduation requirement that'll be happening next year in the careers and civics course. And part of preparation for that is adding new expectations that the ministry has given us into our grade 9 and 10 locally developed courses. So we have a small team of teachers we're working with and how we're going to incorporate those new expectations. And then we'll continue to track our mock EQAO results and our entry and exit assessment results and use that information to improve our programming. That is it.
Thank you very much. Are there questions from trustees? Oh, trustee Karen, I saw your hand first, and then trustee Stanley.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. I'm just curious what kind of changes you anticipate next year if there's a dedicated superintendent math lead position. Do you imagine some changes right off the bat, and what will be the long-term changes?
I welcome any help. So let's just put that out there. Yeah, no, I mean, it depends, I guess, in terms of what that workload will look like, but yeah, we're open to having more people on our team and leading our team. So, and I trust whatever decisions are made there are good ones for all students. So.
Thank you as well for the presentation. You talked about introducing the new idea of teaching sprints or expanding it. Do you have any idea at this point if it's been a success and if it's something that will be continuing?
Yeah, I think in terms of engagement with teachers opting in to use them, I definitely feel like the frequency of teachers in the coaching cycles and teachers outside of coaching schools attending to those sprints, because they're really meant to be a revisiting tool for students. We are looking at this past year's mock EQAO to see if there's anything we need to include aside from the 7 that we've already written. But they look like a really promising sort of intermediate step, especially if, you know, we can't be in the schools with them, that they're easy enough to follow for classroom teachers to sort of model that pre-assessment, see where kids are, have lessons day by day for 10 days and then revisit again. So I definitely think that we will be continuing with those. Yep.
Any other questions from trustees? Okay, not seeing any. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Moving on then. We'll move then, as the secondary math update was already covered, we'll move to 5.3 Q3 interim report.
Okay. So tonight I have the final report for the in-year for 25-26 before our financial statements at the end of the year. So this summary is still showing us as balanced at the end of the year. So we do have some ups and downs, which I'll go over momentarily. So for our enrollment, this now encompasses our March 31st numbers, which we didn't have at the last quarter. So there has been a slight increase, about 19 students. So that revenue has been included in the forecast that's presented here. But overall, it is still a decrease over what we were expecting at estimates previously. But between Q2 and Q3, the difference is negligible. Our staffing has remained consistent for this quarter, so expected to remain the same until the end of the year. So our teachers and school administration both decreased due to our enrollment decrease that we experienced, and facility services decreases due to some positions that are difficult to fill. So looking at our revenues, we did increase a little bit for the enrollment that I mentioned, as well as for our school board administration funds. So part of this funding comes from the number of T4s that we produce annually. Kind of a weird metric, but that's how we get funding for it. And so we've now incorporated the final T4 numbers into the count here, which generated some extra revenue for us. We are seeing a small decrease in international fees. Again, this quarter, we did have another short-term group that opted out due to various reasons and the associated programming associated with that. So the big difference for Q3 is in our expenditures, and I'm just going to focus on the one line, and it's our supply costs. So last quarter, we had also highlighted that supply costs were increasing significantly. So so this quarter, we took another look at it. So we were seeing the trend at Q2 increasing, but it's continued to increase, which was a little alarming when we got to this point. So here we have the comparative year over year so the same period, September to May 24-25 to 25-26, there's an increase of 2.8 million over the prior year. So it is a significant increase that's not really expected. And you can see the charts there. So when we forecast supply costs, we tend to look at the costs that are incurred to date and then trending outwards. So we usually look at it month to month because we do see a pattern. I think you'll recall me saying that every May that we do see a spike in supply leave costs. So we always budget that in whenever we're doing our forecasting. So this year was a little different. So we do see this spike, and if you can see the purple spike on the 24-25 on the top graph, that's for daily occasional. So these are the absences, the random days that staff take off. But this year, you can see the green line is the long-term leave. So those are the leaves that are actually creating a lot more costs for the board. So these are leaves greater than 10 days for staff that are off on any kind of leave. And so there's more staff taking longer leaves. So those are things that are not necessarily within our control. Our total attendance management team does all the good work to get staff back to work when it's possible. It's not always possible. So this is really the big change for Q3 that we didn't anticipate. Supply leave is really tricky to predict in people's behavior, but year over year, it is an alarming increase. So what we had to do in Q3 is we took a look at other costs that we could claw back. So we looked at expenses that hadn't yet been incurred, such as PD or travel or conferences or larger purchases, and we clawed that stuff back. So we put some fiscal restraint measures in place until the end of the year in hopes that would capture to leave us at the end of the year in still a balanced position. So again, we were trending high till the end of the year. If leave comes in lower than expected, then we'll be in good shape. So overall, the risk areas remain the same, but supply staff is the reason why we have labeled this as a high risk at this time. So this was presented to the audit committee last week and is now here for any questions and information for the board.
Thank you very much. Are there questions from trustees? Trustee Stanley?
Presentation. Concerning the supply leave issue, is this a phenomenon that's happening across the province, or does it just seem, have you heard any information that's happening in other boards, or is it just endemic for some reason around here?
I could start, may lean on Carrie for some additional information, but I do think it's not unique to us. I think it is a trend that's increasing. We are seeing an increase in WSIB claims as well. So there's a lot of different complicating factors that are going into it, but the HR is doing what they can in order to get people back to work where possible.
If I may, through Madam Chair, I just wanted to add that when I brought the report with regard to treatment of staff, I talked a little bit about some of these statistics and some of the things we're seeing. And one of the conflating issues for this is with regard to chronic mental stress and traumatic mental stress. We are seeing more and more of those claims being accepted by WSIB, which is obviously contributing to increased levels of sick leave. And we also know that in terms of sick leave, we do still, mental health is an issue, not just here, everywhere. And I think more and more people are seeking treatment and looking for support when they are experiencing mental health issues. So it is across the sector. Anyone I talk to in my role or other roles at other boards, we're all in the same boat. Our sick leave costs and our replacement costs are extraordinary. Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Weiler, you had a question?
Yeah, thank you very much for the presentation. I wanted to lean into the sick leaves as well. It's obviously very concerning, and I know the board is working actively to address it. Has there been any other indicators from the province around any additional supports for that in terms of the impact on our budgets across the province? And the only reason I ask is I know we put in a resolution to OCSTA on it. OCSTA made it one of their fiscal priorities, and yet it's an area we don't seem to have any specific support yet. And I just wondered if you could speak to that a little bit, given that it is a provincial issue, not a board issue, how we can support you.
Well, I can start it. I'm not sure. The ministry has not yet addressed it. I think there's no immediate resolution on their end either. I think it's just kind of a sign of the times. And like Carrie said, it's going into different territory. A couple years ago, when the mental stress leaves started to come in, it was very new, but now we're seeing more of those. And I just don't think that there's a one size fits all answer to any of those. And I think that the ministry doesn't yet have an answer or funding to back any of it up for us yet.
Any other questions from trustees? Okay, seeing none. Thank you very much. Moving on then to the MYSP update.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, I'm going to invite forward Courtney Brewer, our research coordinator, And we have Ryan as well with us to answer any questions that you might have this evening. We wanted to provide a bit of a MYSP update, although the report card would be coming to you in November. We just wanted to provide just a little bit of a where are we at with the MYSP. So we did put the board report together that indicated each of the indicators and where we are. So we're just going to run through some slides with you tonight. Okay, so we're just going to begin. We're going to provide a little bit of a background. See if I can switch the slide here. Oh, there we go. Bit of a background tonight. We're just going to talk a little bit about where we are and how we started with the MYSP back in the fall, the indicators and then the methodologies around and the process that we used around how to develop the indicator dashboard and where we are with the dashboard. We'll talk about, Courtney will move into the research process. I'm going to talk a little bit about the MYSP implementation committee. So that was a committee of professionals that we put together to help implement the MYSP across the system and get it into the hands of educators, administrators, into the school. All schools have the lovely MYSP poster, as they have year over year for many of our multi-year strategic plans, but oftentimes the plan would not actually be utilized, or people wouldn't know exactly where they saw themselves within that plan. So it was really important to us that we had a broader reach with this iteration being a 5-year plan. It's exciting just to be able to get it in there. So it's something that they can feel a part of. And then we'll do a bit of a monitoring update and conclusion next steps. And it's all going to happen in 5 to 7 minutes. So the first slide here is just to bring you back a little bit around our learning, serving, and belonging with faith at the center of everything that we do. That is the 3 priorities that we landed on back in the fall around for our strategic plan. Within those 3 are 4, each has 4 strategic objectives. And from those objectives, we developed 26 indicators. The indicators are assigned to each of our senior team members across our lovely panel at the back. Each of them have, don't turn around, Shaish, it's you as well. So they are responsible for managers for that particular indicator. So that way nothing gets left behind. So people are responsible for it, the progress of it, ensuring the success of it when we are actually doing the work that you see in all of these reports that we bring to the board each week, all lend itself to the overarching goals of the multi-year strategic plan. And so we have our staff monitoring that work within their own portfolios, and it feeds into the plan. So there's just a line drawn basically from the top, from the MYSP through all of the plans and priorities that we have on the board into all of the reports that you do see, which is the work of the board, the operations of the board. I'm going to turn things over to Courtney.
Right. So when we were looking at how we wanted to monitor the MYSP, if you remember, we had looked at some different approaches to collecting data this time. So you're all very familiar with a lot of the quantitative methods that we use, and that is still, the bedrock for all of our student data scores and test scores and things like that with the EQAO. We've also continued on with some of the qualitative data that was being collected and gone quite a bit deeper in some areas. So we've used some ethnographic methodologies and looked into some deeper interviews and focus groups so that we could really understand sort of what is happening across our board. And then there's a lot of mixed methods reports as well that kind of bring the best of both worlds together. And so you would be familiar with a lot of those in the past as well with MDI, and even the EQAO does student questionnaires that we look at as well. All right, so I'll just give a brief overview of the research process, just because there is sometimes a wondering about, well, we collected the data, where is it now? And there is quite a lot that happens in the interim there. So we start off with developing our methodologies, especially with this being a new MYSP. That took some time to really refine our indicators and make sure that we were collecting data appropriately and deciding how we wanted to go forward. Then when we engage in data collection, we try to schedule it throughout the year so that there's a pacing schedule that makes sense for everybody. And then when we have the data, that's when we can start analyzing and validating. We are very cautious about the validation process. We try not to send anything out that hasn't been thoroughly checked. And again, this is scheduled based on data availability. If we don't have the data, we have nothing to analyze. And then when we are sure that the data is looking good, then we engage in our reporting and mobilization. So like Annalisa said, with the implementation committee, we don't just want to put a report out into the world and just leave it hanging. We really do want uptake from everybody across the board so that they can see themselves in this MYSP. And so those mobilization efforts have been really strong this year.
Okay, so just a little bit more about the MYSP Implementation Committee. So it is a committee of superintendents are part of it, administrators, our consultants, some of our consultants that are leading specific areas of the board, including our instructional leadership, and then our research team. Again, we have Courtney here with us tonight, and Ryan Lewis is our data architect. They are part of that work as well. So when we brought that large committee together, it was really interesting to have the conversations about where others in the organization see themselves in the plan, or if they do at all. And so it was very intentional to have a multidisciplinary cross-section of the board that came together so that we would be able to kind of integrate all of those areas and implement that into all of the areas. So the initial work's focusing on establishing the conditions for this successful rollout. So again, more than just getting the brochures out there, the posters out there, and the plaques up on the walls at the schools. We had a comprehensive presentation that was delivered to all school sites on the April 24th PA Day to build consistent understanding of our board strategic priorities. So now every teacher in our system understands and knows and has had an opportunity to really talk about the MYSP. And the board-wide staff survey was developed to assess the alignment with the MYSP goals and identify the gaps in the support. And so we did conduct the survey. We have the raw data for the survey, and we have a general understanding of the results, but I'm really sending it over to research to go through it a little more carefully to determine where. So right now we use like a gem, using AI to help kind of look at the information, but we really want to send it to our team to actually go through and break down and distill that information to really see how our staff connect and can connect their daily work to the MYSP indicators. So those are our next steps at this point, is to see, now that I understand what the multi-year strategic plan is, now I understand those larger goals of the system. We don't want people in the weeds with it, but we want to see for them to understand their connection to it. So sometimes, if we have some feedback that says, I don't know where my role as IEP monitor, for example, in one of the schools. And so we would be able to direct them to where in the MYSP they're going to be able to see themselves in that role. So that is our next step, is to really permeate the system and create more like a hub of understanding. Okay, next one here. Talked a little bit about it. So Courtney's going to talk a little bit about our monitoring update, and we're going to go through the 26 indicators, and we're going to indicate which ones just quickly because they're in your package. There's no need to go through them line by line, but we just wanted to talk about where we are with in terms of the data, the dashboard, and what's published and not published as of yet.
All right, so looking at our 26 indicators, we have 19 reports that are dashboard ready and 7 that are still under development. And that's just reflective of a lot of the new indicators that we've brought in this year through our MYSP. So our phase 1 for developing the dashboard is to get all of the reports just developed and published. Phase 2 is to add in a KPI indicator using our software so that we can just sort of very easily at a glance see if we're trending in the right direction or not when it comes to those quantitative indicators. So under our learning priority, our first indicator is under development right now, about 75% done as of 5 p.m. tonight. And so there was some ethnographic data that was collected there and being put together now. So the analysis is being done and we're just pulling it together. If we look at indicator 2, again, thank you, Ryan, is working on pulling all of this together because it's quite an undertaking looking at the percentage of students in each pathway or program. And so right now that data is being pulled from several different sources and pieced together so that we can report that accurately. Yeah. Indicator 3, the percentage of students who have access to resources and activities and programs to serve their pathway option needs. This is ready to go, and we've already collected the data for next year on our grade 12 exit survey. So that will be reported again next year. If we look at our graduation metric, we can follow our grade 9 cohorts. That data is always lagging and cohort based, and so we're up to date there. Then if we look at our math, again, we separated out math this year, so our grade 3, 6, and 9 math is all up to date for our 2024-2025 data. And then next year when we get our new updates, we can add that in as well. And the same goes for our grade 3 EQAO reading and grade 6 EQAO reading. That is all up to date. Our writing for EQAO, our OSSLT is all up to date. OSSLT will come in again because the grade 10s just wrote it. So that'll get added in. And then this is one of our qualitative indicators developed by our innovation team. The evidence of meaningful participation in deep learning with equitable access to future-ready opportunities, including responsible use of artificial intelligence. So this is an idea of what our qualitative indicators look like because the qualitative data is more dynamic than a visual chart or bar graph. We do provide QR codes so that the full reports or components of the report can be accessed on a still image because our dashboard produces a PDF. And so this is one way that, yes, it's a PDF, but you can still access the information. Here we have our Ontario Catholic graduate expectations, and I got good news today that those have been updated as well. So the new data will be coming in, but we do have our baseline report available. And then honing in, if we're looking at percentage of students indicating that they have choices, they have opportunities to make choices about what they learn. Again, we have previous baseline data and new data ready to add in. When we're looking at percentage of staff who believe their professional development has informed their practice, this survey has been conducted. Thank you to the members of the senior team who helped us do that really quickly. We added it into some of the PD that was being done this spring. And so it was sort of a survey embedded into a survey that people could access. And we had a very good turnaround for that. So a simple, straightforward question, but very telling of how people take up their professional development. In our serving priority, we are currently conducting the analysis for qualitative evidence of celebrating and promoting our Catholic identity. If we look at the percentage of staff with positive perceptions about adult faith formation, we've had ongoing baseline data from our PD day. Next year, that will expand out to be collected from a few other sources as well, including our Catholic Leadership Program, so that we can add that in and have a more fulsome understanding of how people feel about their faith formation. This is our qualitative evidence of faith development and living gospel values. So each year of the MYSP, we will do a different encounter. The 2026 encounter, we were very lucky that Mount Mary was having their 50th anniversary in partnership with us and at the WCDSB. And so we did some ethnographic research there. I got to go for the day and get a sense of the place, got to interview some people, run some focus groups. And so that report is ready to go. A QR code will be added to this report so that, again, people who are viewing the dashboard can also see the report dynamically. For strengthening connections between the homeschool and parish, we are doing a thematic review of A Conversation in Spirit, which happens every year. This is a school parish collaboration gathering that has already been taking place and already has a robust data analysis process with it. And so this is the data from last year. The data from this year that's already been collected has actually been analyzed and will be published when we update the dashboard again. But we do have 2 years now of excellent data there. So that indicator is a very healthy indicator. If we're looking at the percentage of classrooms applying newly available resources with fidelity when we're talking about our faith formation and learning. We've added in to the superintendent questions the use of blessed and beloved and the use of growing in faith, growing in Christ. And so principals are able to survey their schools and make some statements about what the uptake is based on our metric for fidelity. So we're looking at 4 times a week for growing in faith, growing in Christ, 1 time a week for blessed and beloved. And if we move on to belonging, we can look at the percentage of workforce meeting standard on guarding minds at work. This data was not collected this year because we did the staff census instead. It will go again next year, but we do have many years of baseline data to report. Then if we look at the percentage of schools at standard for physical audits related to diversity and inclusion with qualitative evidence of physical spaces reflecting diversity within the WCDSB, we have a new qualitative report for the grad coach for Black students and affinity spaces. So that's available right now. It's linked, but a QR code will be added in so that it can be accessed. Next year, we'll start the physical audits. And so it's a 2-pronged indicator. Half of it is ready for report. The other half will still need data collection. When we're looking at students who feel a sense of dignity and mattering on school climate surveys, this is coming. We're using our MDI data for that. And if you recall, the last time I was here, we talked about how we added in some areas of faith into that MDI collection. The dignity and mattering indicator has that included in it as well. So we looked at not only do students experience dignity and mattering from their teachers within their schools, but we also extended it out to churches and clergy and people who are working in the church to give that more fulsome picture of how students do experience dignity and mattering. If we look at our well-being index, we have been collecting well-being index data for a very long time, and so that will just keep continuing on. And then staff reporting a barrier-free work environment. This was collected on our staff census and is under analysis right now. We can't report it until the whole census data is ready to report. We can't kind of tease out little bits and pieces. So it's a gigantic data collection, even though our MYSP only needs a little piece of it. We have to wait for all of the data to be ready to go. And then if we're looking at decreased percentage of students experiencing disproportionalities in the EQAO scores, we have our EQAO data, we have our census data. We're stitching that together now to get those disproportionality scores available. And the ministry has been very clear that they want that to continue on. So we're happy that it's in our MYSP so we can be compliant in that area. If we're looking at the number of schools running a Catholic School Advisory Council sponsored event, this is one of the ways that we're watching how we're engaging families. So we do have that data provided for 2 years now. And then looking at our communications, we have our social media accounts that tag their posts as belonging. So we have 2026 data for that. And if we look at our media sentiment, we have ongoing data from that as well. So there's just a few more reports to button up, and then the dashboard will be ready for publication in September. And if there's areas there, the census data will come in a little bit after that.
Thank you, Courtney. If you may have some questions around, she did mention the MDI, and we've talked about school climate surveys, and that the Minister of Education had indicated that they were now not mandatory to conduct. For a while, they were mandatory. As you can see, we still have a lot of information in our MYSP that we had set out as indicators that would still be valuable for us to be conducting survey in some way, so we can determine how we would like to gather that information. If we're not doing the formal MDI in the future, we can still do a survey of sort. That has not been eliminated. It's just that the ministry is not mandating that work. So it's still there for us because we're unique. This dashboard is, I know, incredibly well done. It's very unique to Waterloo Catholic. Not all school boards have a monitoring dashboard where they actually monitor their indicators over the 5 years. It is but it is something that's important to us to set those goals and to monitor those goals and to see that improvement. It's such a nice way for the public to be able to follow that work as well. Once it gets published publicly, we can access that information anytime we want. We can set goals. We can align our resources accordingly. It's all, part of the work that we do. So we're very proud of that. So I think there's still an appetite there, a desire to kind of figure out a way to be able to gather the information that we need for the sake of the MYSP. In terms of the next steps then, so we'll continue the analysis and reporting for our newly developed indicators. We will publish it publicly and refresh it monthly. And then the ongoing work with the MYSP committee, I think, is going to be integral, and it's going to be a really great next step to really continue that work so it stays alive and well as the years move on. So I just wanted to take an opportunity to thank our research team. Courtney has been our interim research coordinator for this school year. As you know, she had replaced Kelly Roberts for the year, and this is her last meeting, I guess, for she had met with me today. She's like, today is our last meeting. And I'm like, that's what you think. So I just want to thank you, Courtney, for your incredible amount of work to jump in a year, not only in a year where, jumping into a new position, but also during a year when we're launching a brand new MYSP, among all of the other responsibilities of your role. So I just want to say thank you very much for everything. Yes, thank you. Does anyone have any questions? I'll turn that over to you, Madam Chair, for questions.
Are there any questions from trustees? Trustee Stanley?
Here we go. First of all, I want to thank you, Director Verano, because this is the kind of data-driven focus of an MYSP that I wanted to see before, and we're actually beginning to move in that direction. So I think it's a testament to your leadership and also the hard work of Courtney and Ryan and other members of our staff to make this possible. I guess my only critique would be that the serving pillar, the faith aspect, still seems to lack enough of a quantitative basis in the data.
Yeah.
And I know that's challenging to how do you get at whether the students themselves are actually taking in the faith and it's sticking with them. That's the question that, I didn't see answered at all up here yet. How do you do that? Well, I guess you have to get really creative, come up with some proxy questions that hit at that in the same way that other surveys do regarding mental health. They don't always ask, well, how's your mental health? They ask other questions to get you some idea of where you want to be. So I guess I would encourage you to maybe move in that direction. I guess my question would just be, do we have any plans to improve the quantitative data collection regarding the serving pillar, faith, and our Catholic religion?
So the indicators that we landed are the ones that we are monitoring now. We have made a few tweaks throughout the plan as we evolve and we start to look at to see, is this something that we want to know for the next 5 years and is important? So we have had made a couple of tweaks. The indicators we have right now for faith, again, is around we included more qualitative opportunities in this particular pillar. And that was because it was very hard to measure, to say how Catholic or how has that impacted you on a percentage level. So we thought by hearing the story and the connectivity of in a real sense of serving, will that elicit more a better understanding for us to see if the work is if it's working. So it is, I would say, experimental in a way, in a sense where it's new for me too, for the qualitative research. It's new for all of us to be able to, dig into it and see. But if with your patience, I think that I'd like to see it through even for another year to see if what we're looking at and gathering is actually making a difference. So I feel good about it. I do feel it's just a new level of being able to, like I said, when you talked about encounter, that experience to get out there and to see it actually working in the community, and to see when you listen to the stories of how that experience impacted students in their life. I don't know if you can put a number on that all the time. So I'd like to see it through just a little bit longer to see if we're finding that it's making a difference, if that works.
Thank you. I look forward to
Yeah.
your latest creative endeavors. Thank you.
Thanks.
Trustee Weiler?
Thank you very much for the work that's gone into the new dashboard, blending the quantitative and qualitative measures. I'm assuming that when we see the dashboard, it'll be more of a sort of a blink and think, so that we can look at an integrated view of it as the dashboard. One of the things I really appreciated about our last one was sort of you could really see the indicators, both, well, they were more quantitative, but you could see them sort of in a real summarized way. So I think that will be when we're looking at sort of key priorities as you develop the dashboard. I would just continue to think about how to present that so that it can be really easily digestible in a quick blink and think, even if there's more data behind it. The other thing I struggle with is we came to the end of one MYSP for 3 years, and we've moved into a new one 5 years. And I know it's taken our school year to develop this one, but there were measures, I think, that were ported over from that we already collect. And one of the things I thought that I missed this year was the reporting on those ones that we've ported over. So the ones that are quantitative, they happen every year or two. And with the change in the strategic plan, it's almost like we lost a year of indicators. And I appreciate that we have a new 5 years. And it's very much improved over the first version. But I do feel that the indicators that are the same, we missed a year of a dashboard on them. And so it is what it is, but I will tell you that I missed that reporting this year.
And I think I hear what you're saying about feeling that you missed the information. The information has been presented to you. It has been presented to you in the board reports that come out by our staff. No, because we don't have the dashboard up and running. As you know, like I said, we still have the information on there. So when it is launched, all of that data that you're going to see from the last plan, any of those indicators that were from the last plan will be on the dashboard. And so you'll be able to see, and with of course this year's data as well, so you'll be able to see those improvements. But in terms of the data, like when you look at the SAP indicators, which I think more are your most concrete quantitative ones, we have been presenting all of that information in the board reports, the math report, the literacy report, et cetera. So there's nothing that's been missed in terms of that. It's just that it's not published on the dashboard. Did you want to add something to that?
No, just the delay in EQAO was a little bit.
Yeah, that did throw it off too. The delay in EQAO results this year that came out so late, that that really did have an impact as well. So yeah, I think that once we get up and running, and we talked about that too. So this is a 5-year plan, which is great. And we look at, there are some things that we did continue into this year, but things are moving and evolving so quickly and from the ministry that we are going to, continue to be evolving all the time. And that's going, so we will keep this dashboard as our commitment to our multi-year strategic plan so we can see the growth in those areas. But likely in other areas, we're going to be adding on as well, depending on what changes come our way. So thanks for that, Trustee Weiler.
Are there any other questions from trustees? Okay.
And
Not
thank you.
seeing any. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Want me to stop then? I'm going to do the director.
Moving to the director's report.
Okay, through you, Madam Chair, me again. Just wanted to provide this June's director's report. Just a few highlights. So June, as you know, has been a month of celebration and reflection. We have celebrated some very meaningful events through our convocations, graduations, year-end liturgies, community events, so many different areas that have been so pertinent to the month of June. At the end, a very tail end, I included in this report because Mount Mary was on the 31st of May. So in our area of faith, that celebration at Mount Mary was really wonderful. And our parish school collaboration planning meetings that have continuing to take place as we move into the next school year. I'm quite impressed with the committee, their willingness to always get together. Superintendent Mendonca and John Murphy, just keep that committee. We just keep it going and moving it all time. And everyone's really excited to keep this collaboration moving in the right direction to help support our schools. We'll be having a year-end mass at the church here at lunch on the 24th. We did, my senior team and myself participated in the Oxta Indigenous Leadership Conference, and we visited the Mohawk Institute in Brantford. So that was a really wonderful experience that we were able to do together, deepening the system's commitment to truth and reconciliation and Indigenous education. And it was really incredible, sobering experience to visit the residential school. Also, we hosted today, we're pulling a group of 6 school boards together around AI leadership and collaboration. So we've convened our school boards together to talk about how we can advance that work of artificial intelligence. Thought we'd bring together the insights of other school boards to talk about, what has been happening in the area of AI, how fast things are moving, how do we continue under the understanding that our cybersecurity and safety of students is paramount to that experience. So really great to listen to see how boards are planning to move forward with the goals that have been laid out and the expectations of the ministry around AI. Also, there's many graduations that have taken place. I just want to highlight one that we attended last week, School Within a College. School Within a College is a program that we are dual credit program that we host students at Conestoga College. A different pathway for students to be able to earn their high school diploma is by attending college, by completing their high school courses, and by also taking dual credit courses. So those courses allow them to earn college credit as well as a high school credit at the same time. And so it was really wonderful to see Waterloo Catholic students being graduating from that program. Oftentimes, sometimes the building could be the barrier to student success at times when students are attending high school and running into obstacles along the way. And so it's great to be able to provide other opportunities for students to be successful and to reach that graduation goal. As we know, we also have St. Louis, we have Don Bosco, which we attended 2 graduations four actually graduations in the last week, as well for St. Don Bosco. So just a lot of really unique opportunities that we offer our students. And so I just, when we look at graduation rates and we look at numbers and data, it's still really important to know the child is at the center of that work. And sometimes students just come to us needing different ways and different strategies of them to be able to see their success. In the area of belonging, so just again, finished up my school visits. Also, we are working through completion of 2 sites, Notre Dame and our Southeast Galt student, soon to be named, hopefully. That work is continuing. We have some very hardworking staff that have been so incredibly diligent in ensuring that those 2 sites are going to open on time. And of course, June, I can't end the report without saying thank you again to our finance team and all of the work that went into budget planning, the work of our senior team, enabled to making those tough decisions and just all of that as we work and continue to try to, again, serve our students the best of our ability and while staying aligned to our multi-year strategic plan. So that is the end of my report, Madam Chair, if you have any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from trustees? Okay, seeing none. Thank you.
Thanks.
Moving on then to 7.1, student trustee report.
So this month, all of our secondary schools looked forward to a positive end to the school year, with most of our student council actions slowing down as students begin prioritizing their final assessments, culminating in exams. A bit of feedback, graduating students were given a uniform hand in time. I personally think this is an amazing initiative. All of my friends were pumped to hand in their uniform at the end of the year because it goes towards a good cause, because we understand that some students are unable to afford uniform. So it's kind of like the gift that keeps on giving. So it gets passed down and it keeps going. And as a grade 12 student, being out of uniform for a full week is pretty fun. And seeing all my buddies out of uniform, it's pretty cool. But yeah, it's definitely a change. I put away my uniform and I was like, wow, I'm never going to wear this again. It's pretty crazy. There's a lot of senior events that took place. I want to highlight events like Senior Sunset that happened at my own school, St. Benedict and Monsignor Doyle. These events are very valuable and create a lot of memories for the senior students, as well as some interactive videos were made at Monsignor Doyle and St. Benedict with like a senior sign out. I know that the St. Benedict one collaborated with the board account, and it's nice to see all of the high schools coming together with their media, collaborating with the board account. It just gives the board a better look, and I encourage this going forward. The majority of schools also hosted a final assembly to bring people together. Some notable events that I always like at Resurrection, they had a minute to win it. At St. Benedict, a lot of teachers from different departments were pied in the face in front of hundreds of students, which is super fun. And of course, other musical and dance performances. Lastly, the Cookies and Cram event was pretty popular at the end of this semester. Students could come together to get one-on-one department help for specific exams and courses. This is very valuable to students as perhaps they're unable to remain focused at home, and instead they can have like a tutor of someone who actually knows, what's going on in the course, whether it's their teacher or another teacher that's accredited for this course. So always a valuable time there. For Student Senate, we hosted our transitional Senate meeting, and it was great to see all of my outgoings go on, as well as meet all of the incoming student trustees and co-presidents that are coming in. I have no doubt that the future of Waterloo Catholic and its student leadership will continue to excel under the leadership of Rashid and Braden. Trying to account all the co-presidents, we have Katerina and Danielle of Resurrection, we have Connor and It was Sam from St. David's. We have Sean and Maddox of St. Mary's, Fabio and Isabella of St. Benedict's. And lastly, we have Kira and Ornella of Monsignor Doyle taking on those roles as co-presidents. Rashid and Braden are already looking ahead and they're super excited to take on the next school year. Rebecca and I have set them up really well. We have a huge Senate folder that they're able to access anything there. I'm sure Mr. Eby is pretty excited to take on this new group in his second year using all that he's learned this year. And for a general report, I'm very thankful for the board and this opportunity. Although Rebecca could not make it, both of us are extremely thankful for everything that has been provided to us from this board. It's going to be a great memory for me. All of you have been so wonderful. I wish Rebecca was here to say her own words, but she just wanted to let me know that she's super happy that she was given this opportunity. And thank you all.
Thank you very much. Any questions from trustees? Thank you very much for your engagement and participation. I appreciate everything that you've done this year. Moving on to item 7.2, CPIC committee presentation.
Through you, Madam Chair. I'm going to try and navigate my way through these slides on my own here without Stephanie's help. So let's see if I can do this. Today's presentation will provide a high-level overview of CPIC, the work and the impact that it's had across the system. The focus is going to be on how CPIC strengthens authentic parent engagement in alignment with board priorities and Catholic identity, and the emphasis, of course, on system impact, alignment to the multi-year strategic plan, and student success and well-being. Purpose and role. CPIC is the board's formal parent advisory body, and it strengthens connection between parents, trustees, and the director of education. It's grounded in Catholic social teachings, and it emphasizes that parents are primary educators in their child's educational journey. CPIC serves as a critical bridge between home, school, and parish. Its work is rooted in our Catholic understanding that parents are the first and most influential educators of their children. The committee ensures that parent voice is not only heard, but meaningfully informs system decision making. Core mandate of CPIC is to enhance parent engagement to support the following: student achievement, student well-being, equity, and inclusion. The parent engagement is one of the strongest predictors of student success, and CPIC's role is to ensure that that engagement is intentional, inclusive, and aligned with board's priorities. Particular attention is placed on reaching all families, especially those who may feel less connected to the system as a whole. Some of the key actions that we undertook in terms of strengthening parent voice this year was we held 5 formal meetings. We had participation in system events, and we had CPIC representation at the Budget Advisory Committee. CPIC ensures that parent voice directly informs board level planning and decision making. Representation at the Budget Advisory Committee strengthens transparency and parent understanding of the fiscal realities. Feedback was gathered through surveys, direct communication, and event reflections to inform continuous improvement. Some of the key actions were we ensured and did a lot of work this year with working on the consistent communication piece with all Catholic School Advisory Council chairs, sharing of ministry and provincial resources through OAPSB, and strengthening that home school parish connection. A priority this year was ensuring that there was strong alignment between CPIC and the Catholic School Advisory Councils. Regular communication improved clarity, consistency, and access to information across all schools. This work strengthens the broader ecosystem of parent engagement across the system. Some of the work that Superintendent Merkel had started with the CPIC committee last year in terms of developing a 3 times a year communication newsletter from CPIC members to CSACs is something that we brought to fruition this year and were able to get off the ground. So really happy about that work. Some of the professional learning focus areas this year were around mental health and well-being, equity and inclusion, family life, specifically the new Blessed and Beloved program, AI and digital literacy, mathematics strategy, Catholic identity, and pastoral planning. CPIC invested significantly in building the capacity of its parent leaders. Learning opportunities were intentionally aligned with system priorities and emerging needs. The result was increased parent confidence, knowledge, and ability to support their children's learning and well-being. Direct support to school communities. Some of the initiatives we undertook this year were our annual CSAC onboarding session, the annual commissioning ceremony, both of which happened on the same evening, and of course the OAPSB conference participation where we had 2 people attend. The onboarding session provided clarity around roles, governance, and system priorities for our CSAC leaders. The commissioning ceremony affirmed parent leadership as the Ministry of Service within Catholic education and within our school board. Participation in the OASB conference strengthened provincial alignment and was able to bring back some leading practices that others across the province are also working on. Our pro-grant funding, we made sure that our priorities were school-based engagement initiatives, system-level events and partnerships, equity and accessibility inclusion were at the forefront. Funding decisions were driven by identified needs at the school level. Emphasis was placed on ensuring equitable access for all families, and the strategic use of funds enabled both local innovation and system-wide impact. We had some really interesting offerings this year, particularly from Mark Modelo, who's opening a brand new school, and he was very creative in his CPIC application for funds, and so it was nice to see some variety and some diversity this year through those applications. Some of the parent engagement events that we sponsored were Family Game Night, SEAC Grace for All, that we partnered with Superintendent Florin and his team, Media Smarts Digital Safety, and AI Literacy for Families that we partnered with Superintendent Merkel and her team. These events reflect responsiveness to parent interests in emerging topics. Focus areas included inclusion, digital safety, and supporting families in navigating new technologies. The outcome were that families are more informed and connected and thus more confident. We were aligned to the MYSP in terms of the pillar of serving and strengthening Catholic identity, promoting home-school parish relationships, and the pillar of belonging by enhancing parent partnerships, promoting dignity, mattering, and inclusion. CPIC's work is directly aligned to the board's multi-year strategic plan. It operationalizes key priorities under serving and belonging. The work reinforces our shared commitment to community, faith, and inclusion. In conclusion, CPIC is a high-impact, faith-centered advisory body. It advances the board vision of our Catholic schools are the heart of the community, success for each and a place for all. It continues to play critical system-level role. Through engagement, leadership development, strategic funding, it strengthens authentic partnerships. This work reinforces both our academic and our faith-based mission as a Catholic school board. Through the work of CPIC, we continue to honor the sacred partnership between home, school, and parish, recognizing that when we walk together in faith and purpose, we create the conditions for students to flourish. Happy to take any questions.
Sorry for the delay there. Are there any questions from trustees? No. Okay, thank you very much. Moving on then to SEAC committee presentation.
Through you, Madam Chair. Unfortunately, our co-chairs were planning to be here tonight, but they send their regrets. So I'm going to provide a brief overview of the year and the topics that we covered for SEAC. So I'm going to ask Stephanie to share that up on the screen. Thank you. And so this is an overview month by month, the topics that we covered at SEAC. Each year we provide an interest, we solicit input from the committee to see what they would like to learn about. And so we generate several topics, items that we've explored in the past, as well as we open it up for new items. And then we do a little bit of a vote, we prioritize. And so these are some of the key initiatives that we covered this year. So started out the year with professional development plan for the year. This is where we share all the PD that we are going to be doing with our special education teachers, our educational assistants, and our CYCWs throughout the year in regard to special education. Also provided a summer boost and transition to school update, and we're excited that we're going to be doing that again this summer and this fall. So that's something that will be hopefully a standing item coming to SEAC in the fall. We provided, as per the ministry, we have to review the special education plan every year. and we have to submit that. And we always look for input and feedback from the SEAC committee. So we brought that forth. And then there were some new updates in regards to funding for the ECPP, the Educational Community Partnership Program. So that was an interesting topic, and we shared some of the points and the flexibility that we have around that funding going forward. October, we had Katrina and Whitney come and provide an update on AI and how it can help students with special education needs, and it was very informative. Parents were very interested to see what resources were available and what they could do outside of school and at home to support their students. A topic that comes up often is self-regulation and how we can support our students and what resources we have. And so we were fortunate that we had Andrea Snyder to present on that. We had Superintendent Ritzma and Petra Leduc speak to the SAP and the MAP, and that's part of the PAC on SEAC guidelines that to share that achievement plan throughout the year. So that is always a standing item on the SEAC committee. Community Transitions was a presentation in January by Aaron Sutherland and Philomena Cruz. And in February, as Superintendent Mendonca spoke to, we had our Sacramento Kits Grace for All event that was held at St. Anthony Daniel Parish. And we had the support of also Deacon Olson, and it was continues to grow, and it's another initiative that we continue to support and look forward to doing next year. We had in March Assistive Technology by Chris Runstedler, and we also had the Sapphire program at Laurier. So Professor Laura Allen at Wilfrid Laurier University, she has, with the assistance of one of her cohort of students in a leadership program, they've developed a program to support students with intellectual and developmental disabilities that are going to post-secondary education. And so we partnered with them to bring that into each one of our high schools and share an information session and ask students, we promoted it and asked students to sign up and learn a little bit more about it. And so Professor Allen had joined us that evening just to share a little bit of the information about the program. So we were happy to have that partnership with Laurier, and we're looking to continue that on. One of the things that we often hear from our parents is to learn a little bit more about when students transition to secondary school, what are the various pathways, and in particular, supporting their child with special needs. And so there was a lot of questions around active and community living pathways. And so we brought Aaron Lemack in, as well as one of our special education liaisons, to present on the various programs, the differences, and what supports and resources were in place for that. In May, we had Steph Garibaldi, a secondary teacher at Monsignor Doyle, as well as Pat Grasso. They presented with Tara Farias, a parent representative from Cambridge Memorial Hospital. And that was, you may have seen that on the news, that was the Discovery Day. It brought a lot of attention. It was a great collaboration between Cambridge Memorial Hospital and Monsignor Doyle. And as a result of that meeting, they've asked that we commit to doing that not only with Monsignor Doyle, but with all of our high schools going forward. So we're very excited about that. And what came of that was Officer Amanda Henning sits on SEAC as the representative with the Waterloo Region Police Services, and she's reached out to say that they would like to partner as well and do a Discovery Day with the police services. So we're excited to explore that as well. We also had Special Olympics present in May, and then our one and only finance team presented on budget in June. So those are the key topics that were presented this year. As the term comes to a close this fall, we'll be looking to seek new nominations for memberships to SEAC, but overall it was a great year, and I appreciate all the support from the SEAC committee members, as well as the trustees that sit on SEAC as well, and all their continued advocacy and support. So thank you. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Are there questions from trustees? Not seeing any. Thank you very much. Moving to 7.4, Linkages Committee Annual Report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just a policy statement. So the job of the Board of Trustees of Waterloo Catholic is to have a link between the organization and the Catholic school ratepayers of Waterloo Region. So for the 25-26 school year, the linkages committee consists of myself as chair, trustee Doherty Masters, chair Kraft, and trustee Phillips, as well as our student trustee Jace Crisco. We worked on a few things. We're trying to continue to identify regularly occurring events, mostly annual ones, where trustee involvement helps to strengthen the relationship with the broader community. Attendance at trustees at these events throughout the school year helps provide an opportunity for community engagement. I also prepared a summary report of the regularly occurring events, which we can use as a reference for providing insight regarding event timing and trustee involvement. At the start of this term, we had 8 new trustees. Many of us didn't know what was going to be happening or what the events necessarily involve. So for any new trustees that we may be there next year, this can be a good reference. We developed a framework for determining when congratulatory letters are appropriate. We tried to ensure that trustees receiving an individual invitation to an event would share it with at least their city, if not the broader group. And I would actually like to thank trustee or Director Verano for trying to make sure that to advise principals and such administrators to invite the larger group where possible. We hosted the community leaders gathering on May 14th. It was a great success. We had to hold it outside of Catholic Education Week, which was traditional because there was a conflict with another event. Various congratulatory letters were sent. We attended secondary school convocation ceremonies over the past few weeks. We also attended several graduations. Project Search coming up this week, St. Louis in the fall, Navy Co-op also coming up this week. We attended the commissioning of the CSAC chairs and the new administrators this past fall, and we updated our terms of reference for the committee. Future plans, continue to identify and notify trustees of events, sending ongoing recognition and appreciation letters, and to continue to co-host the CSAC Administrator Commissioning and the Community Leaders Breakfast. So this report's for the information of the board. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Not seeing any. Thank you very much. Moving to the Pastoral Committee Annual Report.
Thank you, Chair. The Pastoral Care Committee was established to assist trustees in their pastoral needs. Its focus is on the spiritual welfare of the trustees and the trustees community. So this year I was pleased to chair the group, and we implemented a number of the items that we had begun in 2025. We were pleased to recognize the school board's new pastoral plan, Listen, Engage, and Serve. We were happy to have the benefit of spiritual animator Deacon Richard Olson lead us in a spiritual retreat in December. That was the theme of that was around the power of listening, and was well attended and I believe beneficial for all in attendance. And the report, you'll see that I've listed a number of spiritual related events that trustees have attended. Really, it is only probably a small sampling. I wanted to highlight a couple that were particularly interesting. That in October, we had the opportunity to have the Spiritual Development Day dinner in advance of the school board's Spiritual Development Day. So we got to hear Dr. Negan Sinclair speak, and I really appreciate that opportunity. And then also in October, several of us were able to be part of the 25 years of Catholic Education Mass with Bishop Crosby at St. Dominic Savio School. I'm very grateful that we were able to be joined by several members of the clergy, including Reverend Paul Boyson from St. Francis of Assisi Parish, Father Toby Collins from St. Mary's, and Deacon Sean Meany from St. Anthony Daniel, as well as a few students to join us at our meetings and lead us in prayer. We're hopeful that next year that will continue and be expanded. And that is the bulk of my report. It's being presented for information for the board.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from trustees? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much. Moving to the Governance Committee Annual Report.
Through you, Madam Chair. So as trustees will know, the Governance Committee is a standing committee of the Board of Trustees and responsible for developing, reviewing, and recommending board policies and procedures to the Board of Trustees. And its role is to ensure that the board operates in alignment with the Education Act and strategic Catholic values. There are 4 members of the committee, the chair, vice chair, and 2 other trustees. And throughout this past year, we met 4 times from September to June. And we all, at our meetings, often had other trustees there as guests to invite feedback across the board. So as you will know, throughout the year, various policies are referred to governance for review and discussion. And through this process, the policies that were reviewed, updated, and then brought forward to the Board of Trustees at a subsequent board meeting were numerous this year. I would say most of them didn't have material changes, but certainly based on feedback from board meetings where they were sent to governance, implementing that feedback, and then bringing it back to the board for approval is a really good way to continue to follow our processes, but always see where there's opportunity to feedback. Any policies that are in review, by this point, they either come for review and approval at this meeting, or if there are outstanding policies, like, for example, any policy review tonight that's sent to governance, that would then follow up on the agenda at the first governance meeting in the following year. As always, depending on the board plan each year, we continue to engage in regular professional development specific to governance and board policies. And with legislation upcoming in the future, I imagine there'll be lots of opportunity to review this. So this report is for information of the board through you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from trustees? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much. Moving on to 8.1 OCSTA communications. The link there is provided for your information in the agenda. Nothing of immediate consequence for your attention, I wouldn't say. Moving to 8.2 Chair of the Board report. It's included in your package for your information. Just listed my attendance at various events through the months. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you very much. Moving to the governance recommendations report.
Through you, Chair. So just a little bit of context. This is because it's a governance motion, it is for approval. On our March 2026 governance meeting, the Governance Committee conducted a review of Board Policy 2006, Celebration of Excellence, and that was based on Trustee Phillips' feedback in terms of enhancing it. So we took that back to governance, and in your package, you'll find the proposed amendments. The second one, on May 19th, this year, we undertook reviewing the bylaws, but with a more focused look at clarifying Section 5, which was on delegations. And that was really to provide clarity in a number of areas that were gray, and we wanted to be as transparent as possible with our bylaws to remove any gray areas or questions. The other area was Article 3, where we just needed to add in 1.5 items for action into our regular board agenda. We undertook a focused look because If we'd have reviewed the entire bylaws, it was at the same time that the legislative changes were coming forward, and really would have been a large cost for a legal review. And yet we really felt that it was going to come forward and need a legal review anyway once the legislative changes are in. And so we undertook to do a very focused review this year, understanding that the bylaws will likely be need to be updated based on legislative changes in next year's governance committee also. And so the area that we focused on again was Article 3 and 5, and that's what is being put forward for discussion and hopefully approval this evening.
Thank you for that overview. Do we want to put a motion on and then have a discussion about it, or sorry, hold on, Trustee Sikora.
I'd suggest discussion first.
Discussion and then motion? No, I was gonna say, should put it on the floor and then discuss. Is that what we would do, or? If you think we should discuss first, we can, I'm open to that.
Just discussing first, because I would
Okay.
like, I would suggest an amendment
Okay,
to what was put forward. So,
okay, sure, yeah.
yeah, so I appreciate the work that the governance committee has done and was glad to attend the meetings. The one area was that I was changed, that I am not in full agreement with, was the amount of time allotted for delegations. It was decreased from 10 minutes to 8 minutes, and then allowing only 3 minutes for clarification questions. So that's a reduction of time. We're supposed to be listening to our community. They're bringing delegations forward for that purpose. So I think we're limiting what our community can say. So I'm fine with everything else, but I would like to see that amended.
So just for clarity, you'd want to put the 8 back up to 10? Okay.
And remove the 3-minute limit on clarifying questions. That's what I would suggest.
You suggest just removing that sentence completely then? The under 5.1.9?
Yes. Because I don't think our clarifying questions tend to get that long in any case.
Through you, Chair, would you suggest a longer time? I think just the intent behind it was to make sure that we were giving everybody the same time. And so if it did need to be a bit longer, I think, I would be open to that. I think what we were finding is just in terms of fairness for the delegate, that everybody got the same amount of time back versus it be like if there was a delegation where people were really interested, or it was a contentious issue or something, just making sure that there was fairness across it. So I don't think necessarily the time is an issue. I'd be open to making it longer, but it was just in the interest of fairness.
Yeah, I would be fine with it, even a slightly longer time. So.
Trustee Cuff?
I have to agree with Trustee Weiler here, because what we've been seeing with delegations in the past is when a trustee is supposed to be asking a clarifying question, which really should be one sentence, they go on to a full paragraph about how great it is. And that's not a clarifying statement. And everybody broadly in this room has been guilty of that. So that's why I do agree with the concept of 3 minutes, period. You should be asking a 1-sentence question, clarifying question on what they did. And I'm pretty sure that the chair won't be like 3 minutes, like precisely. It's more of to make sure that as as trustees here, we understand you're not going to go into a full paragraph detailing how great their presentation is, and then you ask the question. It is simply thank them for the presentation, then ask the question, and that's it.
Is there a suggestion for maybe like a 5 minutes as a time limit, like a time gauge? Because I'm with Trustee Cuff. I don't think anyone's gonna go, "Ah," but like just to have like a guideline for that.
Yeah, Madam Chair, that was exactly my thinking. 5 minutes for the question period. 100% support that one for sure. I'm not sure yet about the 8 versus 10, but 5 minutes for the question period. I think that seems reasonable.
Okay. Is there feedback from other trustees on either of these points? Okay. Is there any other feedback on anything else within the suggested changes? Trustee Cuff?
With regard to the trustee inquiry, the one consideration that I would like to see here is because the reason why it's said that a trustee could potentially put onto the agenda of the next upcoming regular board meeting was so that we can basically ask a question and ensure that we're going to be answered in a relatively quick period. So the fact that that has been pulled away and there is no actual timeline there is a little bit disappointing, because we really should be putting in a reasonable amount of time. Like, and I mean reasonable as in we don't want the director of education to have to like drop everything and go do what we ask her to do, obviously. But at the same time, we want to have a mechanism which we can place something on the agenda if we so desire, because we're asking a question.
So is your suggestion that instead of the suggested amendment to of an upcoming meeting, we would leave of the next?
I think it's a good suggestion. I was just going to say, even if you leave the item on the agenda of an upcoming or the next regular board meeting, there still is a clause underneath that says it could be deferred. Should it take more time? I remember in one occasion where there was opportunity to collect some data. So it could be deferred if we need it until the next one, but it can be on the next one unless more information is needed. So I think that would be fine to leave it with the next. Yeah.
Okay. Are there any other comments on the suggested changes? Okay. In that case, then maybe we have the amendments. Maybe we should go over those and make sure we're all on the same page. So under 3.18.2, the suggestion to just leave of the next and then cross out of an. And then we will leave that other sentence in there. The response may be deferred to a future meeting in order to appropriately address the trustee inquiry, just in case if there was an extenuating circumstance that required more research. And then we had under 5.1.8, the time allotment. A delegation will be accorded up to 10 minutes. And then under 5. And changed from 8, and under 5.1.9, we will change it to a total of 5 minutes is allocated after the delegation instead of 3. So with those amendments, is there a mover, perhaps as chair of governance, you'd like to move with the amendments?
I don't know that we've resolved the 8 to 10 minutes yet, so
Oh,
maybe just
okay.
spending a few more minutes on that.
Okay.
Maybe through you, Chair, I could provide a little bit of intent on that one too.
Okay, yeah.
The one thing that we took out was that if in our previous version, and I don't have, I only have one screen, I don't have it in front of me, but if the presentations were materially the same, we could have asked 2 people to combine them. And in our governance discussions, we didn't feel that was right. It could be 2 people that don't know each other. It could be 2 people that have the same concern, but for very different reasons. And so because we have 4 per week, we didn't feel that it was fair or the reason why we have delegations to ask people to combine their presentations. And so we removed that piece because we couldn't come to an agreement that combining presentations was something we wanted to do any longer. And so we thought materially about presentations that maybe did have the same issue, but were similar. And that's where we came to the agreement that we wouldn't ask anybody to combine them, but we would reduce the time from 10 to 8. That was sort of how we got to the 8, just in terms of intent.
Trustee Sikora?
Yes, I was there at that meeting, and if you notice at 5.1.11, where there are multiple delegations on the same topic, the chair of the meeting may invite presentations to be combined. So it changed from required to invite. So we're still allowing that to occur. And somebody may feel they're not a strong speaker and would like to throw their speech in with someone else. So
yeah, absolutely. Sorry, through you, Chair, we didn't want to remove it, but we weren't going to require it. It was an invitation. If somebody wanted to do that, it was an option. Yeah.
Okay, so what is the feeling of the group on the 8 or 10 minutes or some other potential suggestion? Trustee Stanley?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think on balance, I support the 8 minutes because yes, some people might feel like they needed longer, but some people might also be more likely to delegate because they feel like they can't fill up 10 minutes. Some people see, oh, I can't do a 10-minute presentation, but oh, 8, well, that's not so bad. So I'm not sure if it will really discourage anyone from coming to delegate, which is, I think, the concern of Trustee Sikora. So I would agree with Trustee Weiler to change it to 8.
Okay. What's the feel of the group? Would we be okay to go ahead with the 8? That was the recommendation of the governance committee. Yeah. Okay. Then I think perhaps we are ready to move the motion if you're prepared, Trustee Weiler.
Sorry. I move that the government recommendations presented to the board on June 22nd with the suggested amendments to bylaw. It was 3.8.2 where we switched of the to the next and to the question minutes from 3 minutes to 5 minutes in 5.1.9.
There's a seconder of that motion? Trustee Cuff? Okay. Do we have consensus? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Moving on then, we're going to 10.1.1 Board Policy 2001 Global Governance Commitment. This was assigned to all trustees for review. If someone is willing to move a motion, that would be great. Trustee Stanley and Trustee Weiler, do we have consensus? Okay, great, thank you very much. Moving on to 10.1.2 Board Policy 2010 Board Committee Structure, and that was assigned to Trustee Cuff for review.
So I would like to move that we are in compliance and that it does not need to go to governance. The last revised date was 2025.
Okay, is there a seconder of that motion? Trustee Sikora? Okay, do we have consensus? Okay, great, thank you very much. Moving to the work of the board annual report. I'll pass to Vice Chair Weiler for a bit of context on that one.
Thank you. So as you may recall, this is just a brief context setting. In September, we presented and agreed upon 4 priorities for the 25-26 school year. We wanted to continue with our governance education, continue with our advocacy, community outreach, certainly with the support of our linkages committee, and continue reviewing our policies as per the school year annual cycle. In January, you'll require we provided a interim update under each of the priority outlines. So in this report, for each of the priorities, professional development, advocacy, outreach, I've added a general summary. It's probably not an exhaustive list of each of those items, and certainly felt through the work of the board, we could say that we had met each of them. The only thing I was thinking for next year, like I always reflect on this, and I was thinking, you know, given our new multi-year strategic plan with learning, serving, belonging, and faith at the center, we could evolve this template to really connect in with that. And then our key priorities would be connected in with that. And given that some of these accountabilities will likely change with the legislative changes, that might be a good way to approach it and focus where we need to be in the future. So the report is for information only, but really a summary of our work this year and some thinking about what we might like to do next year as we kind of evolve this work.
Thank you very much. I think that's a great suggestion, actually, that we should consider for next year's work for sure. Anything from trustees? Okay. Thank you very much. Moving on then to 2026-27 board meeting dates. Before we begin the discussion, I thought maybe just a quick overview by the director on the proposal that she put together on the meeting structure changed.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Just sent an email to trustees a little bit earlier last week to talk about a potential shift or conversation around structure of meetings for the next school year. Did a bit of research to see we do have our 10 mandated Board of Trustees meeting each month. We have that, and that is where all reports go that are for decision. We are only allowed to make decisions on board nights. Committee of the whole meetings are historically brought to board to have more informal conversations and committee work, so linkage and pastoral or other committees. Ours over time, just historically over years, have morphed into an additional board meeting. And so we have the formality of the board meeting. The only difference being that the presentations are for information only, and as no decisions can be made on those meetings. So I did send a couple of examples of how so many of our scheduled meetings are information items and not for voting. The suggestion was that just looking at other boards as well, many of our other boards, similar to our size and nature, do not have committee of the whole meetings. They stack their committee meetings. So they have audit, we have CX, CPIC, audit, governance, SAL, as well as our linkage and pastoral committees. And so they offer those meetings on those other nights and no committee of the whole meetings. So just to pull a couple of examples, I'd shown a couple of the months where we may only have one report on a committee of the whole evening, and then the rest is just other items, and then we move into linkage to pastoral or often other things. But I think that there's a real opportunity to reduce the amount of resources being used to have a committee of the whole. We have 8 currently. The suggestion is that if we move to 2, we could have one in the fall. We would put as many instructional reports, information reports on those meetings, but there is that opportunity to move some of those reports into consent. And so that there would be no change to our reporting. We would still be providing the reports required and the reports that have evolved over time, and we can determine together what would go on to consent and what would be presented as a presentation. So no reduction in terms of information. This is not around holding back information or not sharing information with the board. It really is just trying to align those meetings more efficiently, reducing the cost and a little bit of cost savings as well, bringing in trustees for the evening, the entire staff, meals, mileage, our executive assistant time, admin assistant force for signing in, and of course, security. Sorry. So these are just, again, suggestions just around building efficiencies. We've all been doing our part to try to reduce just items that are, like I said, we fall into kind of patterns over time. And then when you really take a hard look to say, like, how did we get here to a point where we're having 20 meetings a year, plus committee meetings, plus all of that. So I thought it was a real opportunity to take a look at it and just have a conversation and see if that would be something that would be appropriate.
Okay, thank you for that. Do we want to have a discussion about this? Okay. Trustee Sikora?
First off, I'm not opposed to reducing the number of meetings, but we've had limited time to review the impact and discuss. The proposed change is significant, reducing from 8 committee of the whole meetings down to 2. There have been 8 meetings on roughly a monthly cadence for the past 10 plus years. The information presented during committee of the whole meetings often provides more context to what is provided in the report. It reduces the number of opportunities for delegations. As we saw earlier tonight, the proposed changes in the bylaws already is reducing the time allowed for delegations to present. We may potentially have 9 new trustees sitting around the table next year, and removing the committee of the whole meetings reduces their insight as what is happening in the school system. For this reason alone, the decision to reduce the number of committee of the whole meetings should be deferred until the new board is installed. We're looking at having 2 new SOs in the fall, and the trustees should have the opportunity to have them present so we can get a little bit more familiar with those SOs. We've been lucky to have had pretty much same group of SOs for our term. Moving the reports to the board meetings could potentially lengthen those meetings if reports are being pulled from the consent agenda, which is an opportunity. And how will trustees be able to ask questions on reports that are part of the consent agenda if there's not a majority vote to remove the report from the main meeting? If there's an agreement to pull a report from the consent agenda, and it would normally have been presented by someone other than an SO, such as Petra Leduc tonight, how will preparation to get the appropriate person be managed? It reduces the number of opportunities to coordinate potential in-camera meetings, and they may need to be called having special board meeting. It reduces the opportunity for pastoral linkages meetings, instead requiring them potentially be taken offline. And finally, Board Policy 2001, which we reviewed tonight, states that the board will establish its priorities and work to be completed at the first committee of the whole board meeting of the new school year in September. So I have a motion, I'm not going to put it forward right now, but it's to basically have the committee of the whole for September 7th, which would normally have been, and a board of trustees meeting for September 28th, at which point we will decide how to proceed with future meetings.
Okay, thank you for sharing your feedback. Is there other feedback that people wish to share? Trustee Weiler?
Yeah. Thank you for the proposal. I certainly think that, you know, following suit of other boards across the province and thinking about focusing our time on decision-making reports is very important. I know that sometimes the packages are very large, and I think focusing on decision-making that is part of our accountability is definitely very important. I certainly hear Trustee Sikora's questions and concerns. I do think many of them, with more time, could be worked through. I think that you know, we definitely want to make sure that we have time to set out our work for the year. I think we definitely want to make sure we still maintain the same number of reports. And so I think you know, I really do like the proposal and focusing our time. I also think when we look at our multi-year strategic plan and the new legislation and where we want to spend a lot of our time in terms of you know, Catholic values and bringing that to the forefront. You know, I think there is an opportunity for this type of setup. I hear from Trustee Sikora, it sounds like it needs more time to think through, but I'm certainly generally in favor as long as we don't lose the content, because I do think those are important reports for sharing the school board, but would be happy to work through with the board what a new meeting date would look at. Just from history's perspective, the Committee of the Wholes were originally set up for professional development. And they definitely have moved into 2 formal board meetings, one with decision and one with not. And so, like any board, I think it's a great idea to bring forward what we've got today and think about how we continue to improve the environment that we work in.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Uh, Trustee Stanley and then Trustee Guerin.
Yeah, I share Trustee Weiler's last thoughts, which is that it's always very healthy for an organization to look at what it's been doing and really ask if that's the most efficient and effective way to do it. I broadly support the new proposed changes because I think it is excessive, the amount of time put to some of the committee of the whole. I think it could be perhaps streamlined just by shortening. We talked about shortening delegations. Well, just shortening the board reports to more essential facts that are necessary for trustees would be really key to getting us to deal with Trustee Sikora's concern that the board meetings might become too long. Then I do want to thank Trustee Sikora for laying out such a reasoned critique of all the downsides of this proposal. I think it's really important to have a second sober thought about that. I haven't made a decision yet about whether we should go ahead tonight or delay as trustee Sikora has suggested. But I do think we want to move in this direction soon because I'm very supportive of it.
Thank you. Trustee Karen?
Thank you, Chair. I also am generally supportive of the idea, though Trustee Sikora brought up a number of things, and one thing in particular is if we have new people around the board table starting as a November meeting, I'm not sure that it logistically makes sense to have a committee of the whole in October with an existing group, and then not another committee of the whole until April. So that you might examine some shuffling of that to give an opportunity for learning for potentially new trustees. So.
Steve Stanley?
More follow-up thought, which is that without a committee of the whole, I think it's going to be incumbent on staff and the director to make sure that we have sometimes more forewarning of, like sometimes we've used committee of the whole to bring forward an issue and then vote on it in the subsequent board meeting 2 weeks later. Now we're going to probably need to have that information a month earlier. So that's just something to consider that needs to be done as well. Thank you.
It's okay.
Sorry. Oh, you were going to say something?
I was, but I can wait.
Well, if you have something and then
I
trustee
was just
Huff can
gonna,
go.
just a couple of things. First off, there's always an opportunity, of course, to when we encourage you to review the board package and send questions along in advance and to any staff members. So that's always going to be an availability to trustees to have full access to information, answers to your questions. And even if we have to move to our staff, like Petra, for example, if it's a math question and we will get the response directly to you. So I don't, never really around, holding back that information. And then with regards to the trustee Guerin, you had mentioned the point around, sorry, I just capped on what he had said. So I just. Sorry about that. November, we already have the inaugural meeting and the Board of Trustees meeting the following week. So it is a very difficult month to have committee of the whole. December, we do not have committee of the whole. So I just wanted to raise that point that this was, when I looked at the schedule to make suggestions, it was even difficult to find the spot to put the committee of the whole, just because there are so many other factors. But there is always an opportunity to add an ad hoc meeting if necessary. If we felt that there was information that was coming and we'd require the committee of the whole, we would schedule a committee of the whole. So it's not that it would be a hard and fast, like there's no committee of the whole, because there are things that do come up where we'd have to schedule a meeting or depending on if there's ministry information, any kind of government like changes, we would certainly want to ensure there was an opportunity to share those. So I just wanted to mention that.
Trustee Cuff?
So broadly, I'm actually in support of this. However, our bylaws are fairly prescriptive. So if we want to effectively go about this change, it would have to be sent to governance first. And I would also suggest leaving the September committee of the whole, because since that one is used for an actual planning purpose, then like governance can go ahead and discuss, how many committee of the whole we need afterwards, or if it should be like every 2 months or every 3 months or something like that. But I get where you're going, and I actually broadly am in approval, because quite frankly, we don't need the superintendent sitting here for what is supposed to be trustee committee time and for trustee development. So I get it, but this is not the way to go. We need to go through governance first, and then it'll come back to us and it'll go the full way that way.
I was just, maybe this is what you were going to say, but I thought our board policy only addressed the actual board meeting and not the committee meetings, because our bylaw references it shall be the fourth, Monday of each month. Like, it doesn't say anything about committee meetings in our bylaws.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, that's correct. The Committee of the Whole meetings are not part of your bylaws or any ministerial legislation whatsoever. They are optional to boards as needed. So there would be no need to go through governance for that, as there's no policy to change with regards to that. I don't know if you were going to say that, Bob. I just saw you.
Are you going to concur, Trustee Sakar?
Yes, because I actually looked to see if we had anything in our governance, our bylaws about when committee of the whole meetings are to be held, and there isn't anything. So, like I said, I'm generally in agreement, but I think we do need to have that September 7th meeting because our global governance commitment sort of says we need to set our policies, our plan for the year at that September meeting of the committee of the whole. So, and I don't want to lock in right now. And yes, we could add additional committee of the whole meetings, but I think we should have some broad outline of where we're going, because we can always not have them in a similar sense.
Through you, Madam Chair. Just a logistical thing. September 7th is Labor Day, so that the first committee of the whole would be September 14th, which would be the following Monday.
Okay, is there anyone else that hasn't spoken that wanted to weigh in on this conversation? Okay. There is one other item, just that you would maybe note it on your board meeting dates. The October 26th meeting, which is in our bylaw, that's when it would fall, that fourth Monday is the election day. There is a polling station here, and the public board is not going ahead with their meeting on that evening, which would normally be their evening to do their board meeting. Their cadence follows ours. And so that is put out as a item for consideration, whether we would want to still go ahead with that meeting on the 26th or move it up a week. Is there any thoughts on that? Trustee Sakura?
Just the one thought is we need to have a motion to suspend our bylaw about that.
Yeah, I was.
When we get around to making the decision on dates.
Yeah.
And I am in favor of that.
Any other thoughts on that one? Okay. So I guess we need to decide what we're going to do here, guys. Everyone, sorry, folks. Sounds like we might not be ready to decide fully on this matter, is what I'm hearing from the group. Is that a fair assessment? We may not, we're supporting in spirit perhaps, but not quite ready to trigger the whole thing. That's kind of what I heard. Yeah. I don't know. I need to hear from folks on what they want to do. So.
Did have a motion that basically to go with, well, initially it was going to be September 7th, but it'd be the 14th and the 28th and decide at the 28th. Because I think we need to have some certainty going forward. Some.
Through you, Madam Chair, I just want to make one point about October 5th. It is, and I was going to mention this earlier, it is back to back with September 28th. So it would be Board of Trustees on the 28th, and then the following Monday would be a Committee of the Whole. and that's fine to continue if we want to wait until the 28th to decide about future. But just an example, on that day, there would likely not be a report or perhaps one report, just because there is a meeting the week before. So it's like, again, just for planning purposes, agendas are due, as you know, board reports, any report that you receive is due to our executive council 2 weeks in advance. And then there's a process that it goes through to land in the agenda. So I just wanted to bring that forward for your thoughts as well. Originally, if we hadn't added the 14th, I would have suggested to suspend the bylaw perhaps for the September 28th meeting to move to the 21st. For that one as well, just allow that cadence of every 2 weeks as opposed to every week. But if we want to wait, I'm totally open to that. I just want to keep in mind that October 5th, September 28th, and October 5th is only 1 week apart.
Okay, so how do we want to proceed then? Does Bob, we either are approving what's here, or we're going with Bob's potential motion, or if someone else has an alternate idea. Trustee Cuff?
So broadly speaking, I'd be willing to support this, considering at the October 5th meeting, we're probably going to be discussing what professional development or what have you, and we're able to add things. And in all honesty, we could define the educational committees a little bit better, because that should be broadly speaking, because committee of the whole, the superintendents usually sit here, they've been here maybe half an hour, and then they go home. And that's after they've already had an extra hour and a half of their day. So broadly speaking, I'm okay with this. And then that's why I do want it, not necessarily to go to governance, but somehow to have an extra, I don't know if it's committee or professional development meeting or something that's created instead of this, to not include so many people and not be as formal.
I think that's a great suggestion, actually. If we could maybe repurpose that October 5th meeting potentially to figure that out. Okay. Trustee Sikora?
I'd like to put my motion forward. So the motion is that the board approve a committee of the whole meeting for September 14th, 2026, and a board of trustees meeting for September 28th, 2026, and the dates for future meetings be confirmed at the September 28th, 2026 meeting. So basically just not locking in things past September, and what might have been planned for October 5th would potentially be the September 7th, the contents of that meeting.
Okay, is there a seconder of that? Okay, as there's no seconder, then is there a mover of the motion to approve with, is there a motion to approve and perhaps including some of that language that you propose, Linda?
So I'd be more than willing to move it, but I do agree with the suggestion to move the Board of Trustees meeting to October 19th, because otherwise it's election and we don't want to deal with that.
So then I was curious about that as to whether we needed a separate motion because we are approving this as a whole. Like, would we need a separate motion for that October 19th move? Do you think?
Through you, Chair, yeah,
Yeah.
you would just
Okay.
approve it and
Okay.
then do a suspension of the bylaw
Okay.
and then vote on that one.
Okay. Okay, so then I think that we have a mover then of the motion as Linda suggested. We will approve what's here with the October 19th and understanding we have to do suspension of bylaw to get there. Is there a seconder of that motion? I will. Oh, okay. Okay. Trustee Weiler will second that. Okay. I need a bit of help. Do I suspend the bylaw now or? Okay, and then suspend. Okay. Okay. So the original motion is to support as laid out, and then we will change that meeting to October 19th in the second after the original motion is approved. So we have our motion, we have our seconder. So then I'll call the vote. All in favor?
May I request a recorded vote?
Ye. Okay.
Normally would be asking for consensus first.
Sorry, you're right.
So
I didn't. Apologize. So then I'll allow the recorded vote. So Stephanie, do you have that? Just as is for now, and then we're. Okay. For recorded vote, we'll start with trustee Francis, in favor or opposed to the motion as listed, and then we're going to do the amendment after. Okay, trustee Doherty Masters, trustee Cuff, trustee Weiler, myself in favor, trustee Stanley, trustee Sakura,
opposed.
and trustee Guerin. Okay. Okay, we have the motion approved. And now we will do, I need a suspension of the bylaws so that we can make that amendment to the October 19th or the October meeting. So suspension of bylaws. Can I get a mover of that motion, please? Trustee Doherty Masters and trustee Guerin. Okay, do we have consensus? Not okay. And then the motion would be to amend the meeting from October 26th to October 19th. Can I get a mover of that motion? Trustee Stanley and trustee Sakura, do we have consensus? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you all for your collaboration through this discussion. It was a bit to get through there and appreciate everyone's collaboration. We can, oh, sorry, trustee Sakura.
Based upon these motions, we had an earlier motion on approval of the global governance commitment.
Yeah.
We will be not in compliance immediately because we were supposed to have it the meeting in September of the new school year.
Trustee Cuff.
I would like to move a motion to move the global governance commitment to the governance committee, please.
Okay.
And I'll second that.
Okay. Are we in consensus on that? Okay, thank you very much. Just taking a short pause here for a second. Okay. Moving on to 11.1.1, Board Policy 4001, General Executive Limitations.
Through you, Madam Chair. This is the Board Policy 4001, General Executive Limitation. The CEO shall not cause or allow any practice, activity, decision, or circumstance in the organization that is unlawful, imprudent, unethical, or contrary to the teachings and traditions of the Catholic Church. And the interpretation is that the CEO must ensure that no decision that is made or action that is taken shall breach any and all applicable legislation and should be consistent with and informed by our Catholic values. To me, this signals that we must ensure all applicable laws have been considered. Thoughtful consideration is given to the consequences of all decisions, guided by a strong moral and ethical compass that looks at the impacts to all WCDSB stakeholders, and that we made consistent with our Catholic teachings. A bit of our evidence around that. I won't go through all of it. Just a few of the items that were in the report. Legal liabilities and the Ontario Human Rights Commission complaints. They're reviewed regularly at our audit committee, ensuring that the board's exposure is both known and understood. The CEO and the senior team are guided by the Education Act when making decisions and writing administrative procedure memos. All of our APs are reviewed within a 3-year cycle, vetted at the Executive Council table, and fully compliant with current legal and ethical guidance. And our management works close in partnership with Ministry of Education, OXTA Code, COSBO, OASBO, CSHO, and employee groups, legal firms, and other school boards to ensure alignment with legislation, common law, and leading practices. You will see in our consent agenda this evening that all APs that have in the last 6 months have been listed there, and all of those updates are included. Catholic Church alignment. The board regularly consults with our Vicar of Catholic Education, the Diocese of Hamilton, on matters requiring guidance to ensure compliance with the teachings and traditions of the Catholic Church. Our Superintendent of Faith Development and our Religious Education Consultant attend Catholic Consortium meetings to ensure best practices are followed. The CEO meets twice with the Bishop of the Diocese and other CEOs of the diocese to discuss challenges related to Catholic teaching and promising practices. The CEO and board team work in close relationship with the board's spiritual animator to strengthen parish relationships and address concerns within the Waterloo Catholic region. Also, deanery meetings are attended when called to share key highlights, particularly those related to spiritual and faith development. And as you know, this year has been the focus on the parish school collaboration. So the clergy has come together with staff and will continue to do so. The CEO regularly shares memos and directives from OXTA on best practices and prudent decision-making faithful to Catholic traditions. And the guidance from the Institute of Catholic Education is shared with appropriate staff and informs curriculum delivery and the board's distinct Catholic ethos. That is the highlights of my report, Madam Chair. If there are any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from trustees? So the recommendation is that the board accept this report indicating compliance with General Executive Limitation Policy 4001 for the 2025-2026 school year. Can I get a mover of that motion, please? Trustee Weiler. Okay. Trustee Doherty Masters. Do we have consensus? Oh, Trustee Stanley?
No consensus.
Okay. Then we are ready to call for a vote. All in favor? Oh, Stephanie needs the hands again, sorry. Okay, and then opposed. Okay. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Moving on to the board policy 4007, financial planning budgeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I know that Trustee Stanley was very excited to talk about budget right off the start, and he had to wait till the end of the meeting. So hopefully the wait has been worth it. The monitoring report is in the trustee agenda, and in keeping in line with the direction from our honorable director / CEO, I've chosen two of the provisions to highlight instead of going through all of them. And the two are going to be on the screen there for you. And so the first one is number 6. The CEO shall not present a budget that cannot readily be understood by persons without a financial background. And so for this one here, what we do is continue to highlight the good work of the finance team and the annual award that they win from the Association of School Business Officials International for excellence in budget presentation materials. So it's the MBA, which is the Meritorious Budget Award. So way to go for them. And so we think we're good on that one. Number 7, the CEO shall not fail to ensure uncommitted accumulated surpluses to at least 2% of projected operating revenues. The reason I chose this one is because this one is new this year. And so we haven't really gone through what the definition of this is going to be. And so I've took a stab at it, and I'm hoping this will be okay. And so the definition, this policy provision is interpreted to mean that the CEO must ensure the board maintains uncommitted accumulated surpluses of at least 2% of projected operating revenues. Where the budget forecasts uncommitted accumulated surpluses fall below this threshold, the budget must include a recovery plan. And so good news. So you'll see in the report right below, there is a nice extract from, I believe, the slides. Yeah, it's the 21st slide of the budget presentation. And if you look under the 26-27 estimates, you'll see in green at the bottom, it's 2.1%. So we're good to go in terms of this particular new policy provision. Madam Chair, in the alternative of going through all of the rest of them individually, I'm going to say that we are compliant and recommendations 2, 3, and 4 are required in order for the board to pass the budget. So I'd be happy to answer any questions on the budget or anything else at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Are there questions from trustees? Trustee Stanley.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent Maharaj. First of all, I want to say that the budget is really good news for our board. To be able to deliver a balanced budget once again, despite the stagnation of demographics in the region and the challenges that our coterminous board is facing right now, it's a major accomplishment. My concern relates to the issue of staffing. We've heard some concerns expressed that over the reallocation of the 15 morning supervisors positions, the elimination of that seems reasonable, but some people feel it could have detrimental impact. The other perhaps more concerning issue is the layoffs, basically possible layoffs of 30 of our elementary teachers in the fall if the demand isn't there. So I guess my question for either yourself or the director, it's twofold related to that issue. The first question is, can you assure the board and parents that the reduction in staff will not have any adverse impacts on the quality of education of our students, for example, by increasing class sizes, or for example, by removing supports available to special needs children?
Thank you for the question. And actually, I'm going to ask my honorable colleague, Ms. Pomfret, to respond to that.
Thank you for the question, and through you, Madam Chair. I'm really pleased to let you know that we have actually already recalled all of the teachers who were subject to a notice of redundancy. Part of that was because of our uncertain financial situation, we decided to be very prudent or very conservative in our staffing, but that has since rectified itself, and so we're probably looking at a very moderate little bit of growth even. So.
Okay, well, that is fantastic news then. I'm so glad to hear that. And in fact, my follow-up question was exactly going to refer to what you had talked about earlier tonight, Superintendent Pomfrey, which is that, you know, we hear from teachers across the province that they are suffering overload and burnout. And we heard about increasing mental health challenges that the teachers are facing. So I was concerned that reduction in staffing could exacerbate that among our remaining staff. So to hear that we might not have to deal with that issue after all is excellent news. So thank you very much.
Are there other questions from trustees? Trustee Weiler?
Thank you again for all of the work around the budget, dealing with some very different challenges this year, difficult challenges this year, including a shorter timeline. And I too very happy to hear that a number of the staff, if not all of them, I think you said, had been recalled. So thank you for that update. One of the things I'm curious about, if we look at our surplus as a percentage of operating revenue, obviously it's gone down in the last 5 years from 2.9 to 2.1, and you've certainly had to make some difficult decisions this year to get to 2.1. And I know many boards across the province are announcing deficits. It's in the media daily. So congratulations for that. My comment is around sort of pro forma for the future. If nothing changes in our environment today, it's likely not going to be long till we will have to make even more difficult decisions to stay above the 2.0 threshold. You know, I think next year, if we're in the same environment, difficult decisions to get to a 2.1 again. And I don't envy those conversations or decisions. I'm just wondering, when we look at supporting students in the classroom, all students, and especially those with student needs, you know, what levers will you put in place this year to help us if we're to face the same situation next year? So it's a little bit more future thinking of where I'm going, knowing that the environment is probably going to be very similar.
I think I heard you ask two questions, and I want to make sure I'm going to answer the right one. So the first one is the easier of the two, which relates to the surpluses and ensuring that we are going to continue to be at 2% or above. I think what you're seeing on the screen here, in part, has been assisted by the fact that the government has held back their salary and benchmark increases, which means our operating revenue is a little bit lower than it otherwise would be. I think we're still going to be good in terms of what that percentage is, even when that money does come in. But I think for next year, our revenue is going to continue to go up. And so we are going to have to make some decisions to ensure that our reserves go in lockstep, to ensure they're minimally that 2%. The way that one would do that is to strategically build in contingencies into the budget. The challenge with the way the things rolled out this year's first was the timing. And we were already past all the key dates where we could make substantial changes to the budget. We had to take out some of the contingencies as we reviewed in the budget presentation to get to a balanced position. So for 26, 27, unless things change dramatically, I'm not sure that we can make a lot of headway in terms of moving that up a little bit. However, future focus 27, 28 and forward, a couple of things. So our enrollment forecast from our friend Jennifer indicate that we are going to grow very slowly, which is good news because our revenues are going to go up, and that will provide a little more flexibility to us to build out those contingencies in budget, because even if we're not trying to target that 2.1% in reserves, we always want to have a little something in our back pocket, as my dad used to say, after he cheated in cards. And so it's always a good idea to have that, because there's things that come up during the year that we always need to address. And so that would be our preference. So really, to conclude, really, it's not 26, 27, but 27, 28 and forward is where we can be a little more proactive, assuming the grants come out a little bit earlier and that they are sufficient to meet student need.
Okay, are there any other questions from trustees? Okay, Trustee Guerin.
Thank you, Chair. I guess a question for Superintendent Maharaj and your team. I want to thank you for providing a breakdown of what was included in the trustee expenses. I think it's important for us to be transparent, and You highlighted that it included approximately $320,000 in legal expenses over the past 3 years, which was significantly higher than the budgeted amount, and largely connected to code of conduct complaints amongst fellow trustees. Related to that, I've got 2 questions. So earlier this year, as a result of voting decisions by the trustees, a case involving WCDSB trustee matters was brought before the judicial review of the Divisional Court of the Ontario Superior Court of Justice. The court issued a full exoneration of the trustee involved and awarded her $20,000 in costs. Is that $20,000 included in the legal expense figures of the $320,000 presented in the budget? And then question number 2 is in terms of for this upcoming school year, if legal expenses again related to trustee matters again exceed the budget of $15,000, from what source will those funds be drawn? And what would be the opportunity cost to our students and educational priorities?
So to answer your first question, was the award built into the forecasted numbers? The answer is yes. So that award's already been processed. So that's already built into what you've seen. Prospectively for 26-27, there is $15,000 set aside. And I mean, we've discussed that the budget is fairly thin. I had to take out all the stuff that we usually have a little bit to deal with things like this. What I would say at this time is that the trustees would have to look within the other budget lines within their total allocation and perhaps make some movements to move money around if need be, because there is some money in PD. I think there's some in contracts and there's a few other things in there as well. It's not a lot. So I don't think that we can spend a lot more than the 15, but certainly that full amount is available to trustees to use as they wish. Your last question around opportunity costs, I guess that depends on beyond the trustee budget. So if it's contained within the trustee budget, obviously there's no implication. Where we would go next is, I don't want to say where we'd go next because I don't know. We would just try to look to pull back monies during the school year. That's our typical approach when we see that things are running a bit offline. For example, we talked about supply costs. We knew the supply costs were tracking negatively, and so we start to pull back budgets, and people don't like it, but it is what it is. And so what areas would it affect? I can't say for sure because there's just so many lines and so many projects and initiatives going on in the system. It would depend on which ones are not moving forward, which ones we have flexibility on and have to report on and things like that. So I didn't give you a good answer to the last one, but it's just hard to say what that answer is.
I'm sorry to interrupt. We need a motion to extend this meeting. Can I get a motion to extend? Trustee Weiler and Trustee Francis. Okay, consensus? Okay, thank you very much. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
My interpretation of that is that hopefully that as a group of trustees, we remain within our budgeted amount and don't have to take that funds from anywhere else that ideally we better spent in the classroom.
Were there any other questions? Okay. So there's 4 recommendations here. So do we want to approve these as a group? Or is the group okay with approving them as a group? We want to go one by one. What's the thought here? As a group? Okay. Trustee Weiler?
I would prefer to do the recommendations number 1 separate from 2, 3, 4, because 1 is compliance of a report and policy, a monitoring policy, and I see them very differently. And the second, I would prefer to do the budget motions separately because I think it's important. I don't have any issue with any of them, but happy to do them as a group if it's the will of the group.
I kind of I had a similar thought there, whether we should carve out 1 on its own and then do 2, 3, and 4 as a group. So if you're willing to move that motion then, Trustee Weiler? As to go ahead with motion 1?
Sure. I'll move that the trustees accept the compliance monitoring report as providing evidence that the CEO is compliant with board policy 4007, financial planning and budgeting.
Okay. Is there a seconder of that motion? Okay, trustee Stanley, do we have consensus? Okay. Thank you very much. So then I need a mover that the Board of Trustees approve an operating budget of 451,788,515 for the 2026 to 27 school year as presented to the board, that the Board of Trustees approve a capital budget of 90,416,327 for the 2026-27 school year as presented to the board, and that the Board of Trustees direct administration to file this balanced budget with the Ministry of Education before the deadline of June 30th, 2026. Can I get a mover of that motion, please? Trustee Sakura and Trustee Francis, I saw your hand first. Okay, do we have consensus? Okay, great. Thank you very much. All right. Moving along, announcements. So we're already through, or actually there's 2 project search graduations coming. Then we have the Links for Learning golf tourney in August. September 7th, students back to school, and September 9th, the SEAC meeting. We don't have anything for our next meeting agenda, and then I will turn it over to Secretary for confirmed decisions made tonight.
It was moved by Trustee Sakura and seconded by Trustee Francis that the agenda for Monday, June 22nd, 2026 be now approved, carried by consensus. It was moved by Trustee Weiler and seconded by Trustee Francis that the items for action arising from the double in-camera meeting of Monday, May 25th, 2026 regarding HRS matters be now approved, carried by consensus. It was moved by Trustee Sakura and seconded by Trustee Weiler that the consent agenda, Board of Trustees, and the recommendations contained therein from items 3.1 to 3.4 be now approved, carried by consensus. It was moved by Trustee Doherty Masters and seconded by Trustee Weiler that the Governance Committee approves the governance minutes from March 2nd and May 19th, 2026, as listed in items 3.5 and 3.6, carried by consensus. It was moved by Trustee Weiler and seconded by Trustee Cuff that the Board of Trustees approve edits as recommended by the Governance Committee in Appendix A and B as of this report as amended, carried by consensus. It was moved by Trustee Stanley and seconded by Trustee Weiler that the Board of Trustees reviewed Board Policy 2001 Global Governance Commitment and find that the board is in compliance, carried by consensus. It was moved by Trustee Cuff and seconded by Trustee Sakura that the Board of Trustees reviewed Board Policy 2010 Board Committee Structure and find that the board is in compliance, carried by consensus. It was moved by Trustee Cuff and seconded by Trustee Weiler that the Board of Trustees approve the 2026-2027 board meeting dates. No consensus. By recorded vote, in favor, Trustees Francis, Doherty Masters, Cuff, Weiler, Kraft, Stanley, and Guerin. Opposed, Trustee Sakura. Motion carried by majority. It was moved by Trustee Doherty Masters and seconded by Trustee Weiler that the Board of Trustees suspend the bylaw to approve the October 2026 board meeting date, carried by consensus.
Sorry, just a small point of clarification. We probably need to name what bylaw we're suspending, and it's 3.1.2. I would have updated it earlier, but we'd moved on. So I just thought we should add that into it because that's the one that says the regular meeting of the board shall be on the 4th month. So we're not suspending all the bylaws. We're suspending that particular one. Yeah, thank you.
I'll reiterate that. It was moved by Trustee Doherty Masters and seconded by Trustee Weiler that the Board of Trustees suspend item 3.1.2 of the bylaw to approve the October 2026 board meeting date, carried by consensus. It was moved by Trustee Stanley and seconded by Trustee Sakura that the Board of Trustees change the October 2026 board meeting to October 19th, 2026, carried by consensus. It was moved by Trustee Cuff and seconded by Trustee Sakura that the Board of Trustees send Board Policy 2001 Global Governance Commitment to the Governance Committee for review, carried by consensus. It was moved by Trustee Weiler and seconded by Trustee Doherty Masters that the board accept this report indicating compliance with Board Policy 4001, General Executive Limitations for the 2025-2026 school year. No consensus. Vote by show of hands. In favor, 7. Opposed, 1. Motion carried by majority. It was moved by Trustee Weiler and seconded by Trustee Francis that the meeting be extended past the 3-hour mark, carried by consensus. It was moved by Trustee Weiler and seconded by Trustee Stanley that the Board of Trustees accept this report as providing evidence that the CEO is compliant with Board Policy 4007, Financial Planning and Budgeting, carried by consensus. It was moved by Trustee Sikora and seconded by Trustee Francis that the Board of Trustees approve an operating budget of $451,788,515 for the 2026-27 school year as presented to the board. That the Board of Trustees approve a capital budget of $90,416,327 for the 2026-27 school year as presented to the board. That the Board of Trustees direct administration to file this balanced budget with the Ministry of Education before the deadline of June 30th, 2026, carried by consensus.
Okay, thank you very much. So we are going to be moving into, we will say good evening to the, oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Right through you, Madam Chair. Just before we conclude this evening and we dismiss our superintendents, I just wanted to take a moment to recognize Judy Merkel. And I can't do this again because I keep getting very emotional when I have to acknowledge that Judy has been an incredible, not only an incredible senior team member and colleague, but she certainly has been a wonderful friend to us all. She's brought such incredible insight, professionalism, kindness, just real genuine love to Waterloo Catholic. And that's just been evident in everything that you do, Judy, with such sincerity and such grace. So you're certainly going to be missed. Today is your very last board meeting. So I'm sure that feels surreal, and we're very happy for you. And we wish you God's blessings, continued blessings in your retirement. We wish you congratulations and just a sincere thank you from behalf of all of us. Just want to thank you sincerely for everything that you do. And congratulations. We love you.
Thank you for that. Okay, so before we'll be saying good evening to our superintendents, but before that, I need a motion to move into our triple in camera meeting. Trustee Cuff and Trustee Sikora, consensus. Okay, thank you very much.